Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Monday Night Rewind. I'm Lewis. I'm the co-host. Buju's with me in the staging area, ready to go. We already have Keith Jr. in, so a really exciting night. Just waiting for DJ to pop in. But otherwise, we want to thank National Compact Touring Series, Federated Auto Parts, and ELH Detailing for helping to present the Monday Night Rewind. So as we've been talking about the last couple weeks, tonight we have DJ McCotter who'll be rejoining us because, again, he has such an incredible story. We just scratched the surface with him, and we'll see if he comes with suit or no suit tonight. And then joining him is Keith Beringer Jr. We're all going to be on at the same time, so you'll see four in the box ready to go for a Monday night. Keith was just at South Bend over the weekend, and I think DJ was too. So, we'll get to talk with them about what they experienced over the weekend. And I know that's where Buju was as well. And then a reminder for next week, we are going to do our Monday show on Monday just to keep it routine and keep it predictable. So we're going to have Will Greenwell, one of the top voices in the nation, joining us to tell about his incredible story and his rise in the ranks. And even as he has risen to the top and been offered a lot of amazing opportunities, he absolutely loves the short track racing scene and has stayed dedicated to that, even with all of his opportunities. As one more reminder, this Thursday, you can throttle up with us once again. The Thursday Night Throttle returns, where we'll preview the upcoming weekend. We do know some tracks are off because of the holidays. Some tracks are running. Modifieds invade Kalamazoo for the first of their three shows this weekend. So we'll talk about modifieds there. And then I do want to do a reminder. We've been doing it later in the show, but I want to pull it up now, and we'll do it again later because I know people are just starting to join us. But don't forget the marketing partner special right here in Bridgman, Michigan from ELH Detailing, who is one of our primary sponsors of Top Row Racing Media. When you buy one full detail package using the code Top Row between what was May 1st and all the way through September 30th, you'll receive one entry per detail for a chance to receive a full detail on the house from ELH Detailing. Don't forget they're also a Matt Kemp partner as well, so they have invested in short track racing, so definitely we want to give back to them. The first package that we'll announce will be July 13th right here on the Monday Night Rewind, and then the second announcement will be on October 12th for as everyone gets ready for the fall and into the winter. But anyways, it is showtime, and like I said, I'm Lewis, and then joining me is the Bull Ring Chronicle owner, Buju, and he also is the host for the Thursday Night Throttle. And this is our first Monday, Buju, of no thunderstorms at the time of show.
Yeah, I was about to say, one swept through work earlier, but yeah, finally for once we got good weather on a Monday, so I can make it safely out to and from the garage to host the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where I was wondering when the weather is going to come through, and they weren't sure. Then when it came through early this afternoon, I'm like, okay, at least it's doing it this afternoon. So, we don't have to worry about it at least for live. Because I know some people up in like the Battle Creek area and all that did lose power today. So I'm like, nobody has time for that. So, anyways, how was your weekend? I know it was a busy weekend for you. This is day 5 for me of some kind of racing content.
Yeah.
So we started our streak on Thursday. I know you had Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't know if you went anywhere yesterday, but
no.
Is now my
Thursday,
Friday, Saturday.
I went to the race shop yesterday, so I guess that counts. But yeah, my first doubleheader weekend of the season. Finally, I've been waiting for one, and it definitely wore me out. I've been tired since. I don't think I've fully recovered, but yeah, a fun weekend where I didn't really have to stress at the racetrack, just hung out with my friends, and yeah, it was a very, very good time, especially being at home.
Well, yeah, and I know that, South Bend is such a special place to you and all that, and to a lot of people, right? And I know there are a lot of headlines coming out of that, especially in the street stock class, and so I think I saw that they had like 17 show up for the show, and so
I think that's right.
And it looked like a decent crowd. I didn't see I don't pay attention to all the pictures and everything like I used to in the past. I don't have a vested interest in it, but it's one of those that I at least see what people are posting. So, obviously seeing Rich winning and I know that meaning to a lot of him, has a lot of meaning to him to win at South Bend again. So that's where I got to see some of what happened down there, but I was busy doing my own thing. I was at Galesburg that night of destruction. And I tell you what, New Paris if they ever went and had like a battle of Night of Destructions, I think New Paris would get a little bit of run for their money. You know how much I love the New Paris Night of Destructions. That they have, they're the first Michigan track to do bus racing, and they do like figure eight and all that. And that I had chills going up as the bus was around, and a couple weekly racers were in there, like Jerry, who had just won at Kalamazoo for his back-to-back. He's in the bus. They had a lot of people. Denton's were in the buses, and so they just had a lot of different people in there. Jesse Hart, I want to say Jesse Hart was in the bus, the Bluey bus. He's one of the famous Berg stocks up there at Galesburg, and so that was pretty. I told Bob Garrett, because a lot of people came up and said, "What'd you think? What'd you think?" And I said, "Well, this is having your cake, eating it too, baking another one, and eating that one at the same time." So I was really impressed with their Night of Destruction up there, and I'm even more excited to go back next time. So as I had posted, even before they did all the crazy stunts, I said, I have been sports entertained tonight. And then obviously Friday we had Kalamazoo, yesterday mini wedges. They had a good crowd out there for mini wedges yesterday. So it's just been busy, but that's where I finally today I got to catch up a little bit on what happened elsewhere in the area, like at Corrigan, and because I just, like we've talked about this before. I get on social media to do what I need to do, and I am off. Like I'm not paying attention. I know I have messages I needed to respond to, and I'll get there. It takes time. So I'm tired. I've been editing. I'm almost done with the Kalamazoo program, but I'm like, man, this is a lot of content within like a lot of short time to do. But speaking of, I know we have DJ who just joined us, and it is 7:06, or 7:07 now. So I do want to remind everyone, last week we had our most watched episode of the Monday Night Rewind. So it certainly helps us when you like this on Facebook or even over on YouTube. Definitely share it out. Let everyone know to come join us on a Monday night. And I know at Kalamazoo, Joel has been advertising it as part of his recorded thing, Monday Night Rewind and Thursday Night Throttle. So, hopefully that gets, more and more fans coming and watching along, because now we're getting the race season. It's going to be packed as we go forward. So are you ready to bring everybody on?
I guess.
Well, and just before we bring them on, this is the first episode where, Drew Jack's not with us tonight. He's just been busy coming off of his own weekend. This is the first episode that everybody on here was there before Top Row. Keith has been, he's a pre-Top Row guy. DJ's a pre-Top Row guy. We've not had an episode where it's just been everybody who remembers the time before and then time since, Top Row. So, so that I was thinking about that today. I'm like, oh, that's actually the first time that we've had that. I mean, we've had Evan Verdine on here. We've had others who would know before Top Row, but literally everybody on the screen at one time would remember the time before Top Row. So I thought that was pretty cool. But anyways, again, DJ is going to come on, so I'm going to pop him on the screen. You'll hear him in a second, and we're going to have Keith. We're going to pop him on the screen, and I'm going to hit the right graphic this time. And let's see, what layout do I want to do? I guess it doesn't matter which layout. We're all looking the same. So, so how's everybody doing tonight?
Hey, what's up, guys? Doing good.
DJ, how's it going?
Well, just had a busy day of work and ready for some fun here tonight.
I hope you're parked.
Yeah, we don't need you getting a ticket or anything. Well, he's not moving, so he is parked. You can tell the background.
Well, I am right here in a parking lot here in Cedar Lake, so I think we're all right.
All right, can't get pulled over in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Even
I got stories. I could tell you.
I've seen DJ drive, so I just want to make sure he wasn't trying to do two things at once here.
Yeah. Well, and he would be on the podcast, which is then really super hard to like deny. There's no deniability there, when it's like we can watch you in moving. So, at least we're not doing that. But again, everybody, help share this out, like it. Again, we had our most watched episode last week. We had Victor on, and he has like 800 billion followers. But we had Victor on, and then we had Joel. And then Brian Kuseba, who I know you guys are very familiar with from, when he flagged that South Bend and everything. So that was pretty cool to see, our most watched one. So Leah and Megan got dethroned. It took several weeks, but they got dethroned. They've had some close competition. So again, that just helps us. The more you like, sharing everything and comment, it gets it out there. So I know a lot of people on here already have had DJ and heard DJ. So Keith, this is your first time officially on the Monday Night Rewind. So why don't you do a little bit of an introduction of yourself, and then after you do that, I'll have DJ do a reintroduction so that for those who may have forgotten who he is, can get a little bit caught up, and then we'll just dive right into the conversation.
Yeah, sure thing. I'm Keith Beringer Jr., owner of Beringer Racing with my dad, Keith Sr., and been racing since 2017 officially, in a sanctioned way, like short track racing. I mean, obviously, I've been doing a lot of high speed racing and stuff like that before that, but not in so much a sanctioned way. Lots and lots of stories I can go over for many years, but we'll skip that for now. But primarily, I run the front wheel drive class and the street stock class.
All right. Well, and I know right behind you, you have, one of the front wheel drives that, you've raced in the past. And then is your dad's in front wheel drive in there too in the shop, or do you just have your cars with you?
No, both of mine are in here right now. The camera's actually set up on the street stock right now. And then I got the front wheel drive behind me. Dad's cars are both in the trailers right now at the house. So,
okay.
It's one of those things where we've got a bigger garage than we had before. And before we moved the first thing in here, we went, shit, we're out of room. So we bought a couple of trailers, and that gave us a little bit more storage. We bought a box truck that gave us a little bit more storage, and shit, we're still out of room. So yeah, you're always stuffing stuff around, trying to find a way to make things happen.
Yeah. Well, and that's where that's the thing that I miss about, coming down, in that area, is being able to watch you and your dad race. And that in itself is an incredible story of, how you guys,
ton of fun.
Falling apart, there for a long time, but then racing brought you guys back together. And so, we could definitely get into that too tonight. So that's, I'm excited again to have you, just because I know you did the Checkers and Wreckers before, and that was such a fun episode. So excited to have you joining us. DJ, do you want to reintroduce yourself for those who may not remember you or may not know who you are?
We only have an hour, DJ.
Yeah, right. So my name's DJ McCotter. This is going to be a fun episode. And so I drive the 6-car, owner and operator of Linda Hughes Racing. That got started in 2021, first under the banner of McCotter Motorsports, but then came up with a way to show support to my mom in her battle with cancer before she passed, and formed Linda Hughes Racing right before I started Hornet Racing in 2022, and been racing kind of all over the Michiana area ever since.
Well, and that's something that, when we brought you up to Springport, that I worked on that a little bit. What, Keith?
I was just pointing to DJ. It's just,
Oh,
he's a Hornet. He knows what that means.
Okay.
Well,
yeah. Means I broke out.
Well, but you didn't hit the wall like someone else did, right? But
hey, we've all hit the wall.
Oh. But bringing you up to Springport, that was really exciting, and I know you really enjoyed that track up there. And Keith came up with you to that too. So, and Keith, you had said that you'd been to Springport like a prior time to that, right? If I remember.
I have. I've been up there helping a few guys. I haven't ever had a chance to take my cars up there, so I've not driven that track yet, although I would love to. I mean, it looks like a ton of fun to run. The cars I had previously didn't really have the gearing for that track. My front wheel drive doesn't really have gearing for that track. So the street stock, I'd probably have a better time on that track as far as gearing goes. It's a little bit easier to switch things around there. But yeah, I've been up there quite a few times helping some other guys get their cars ready for it. But I've not driven it myself yet.
Michigan Cup, mark it in your calendars. Donnie Ritter and crew.
They do a great job up there.
That's going to be their first big return, because I don't know, Keith, if you saw all the news, but the ownership changed over at Ford, thankfully. And so at least I think that, and I think a majority of other people think that. So I'm just going to talk frankly, but I'm excited for the Ritters to have it back, because I know what they were building before. And I know what Donnie,
I said they had it before, didn't they?
They did, and so he was the promoter at that time, and
That's what I thought.
Working his way to get in 50-50 into the deal. But now him and another partner have it, and so they're having to redo a whole bunch of stuff. And so Michigan Cup is probably going to be their first like really big event. They might have some things beforehand, but they've only announced Springport Michigan Cup at this point. So and that's the first weekend of October. So if you have nothing to do in the first weekend of October, it's your class. If it's modifieds, it's modifieds. If it's late models, it's late models. It's none of the fancy stuff that some other tracks do for weekend end of year shows, which are fun. Don't get me wrong, but they kind of just run their program on steroids. It's like what they would do on any Saturday night. They just boost it up a lot, and for a couple years in the running, they topped Owasso and everything. When Owasso went head to head with them, Springport outdrew them. 1 year's a scratcher, 6 cars. The next year's a blowout. It wasn't even close. And I know some Owasso fans are like, well, that was front wheel drives. If it were an election, you still lost. So more is more, no matter how you paint it or draw it. But that's some of the loyalists. They wanted to try to discredit what Springport did. And it's like, if it were an election, you still lost. And there's no recount because my race pass is transparent. Numbers are numbers. But, that was my view at that time. And I still think that same way. It's like, that was really exciting. Especially when you're going against an event like that at a facility like that, to do what we did at Springport, that was fun. So, but anyways, mark Michigan Cup on your schedule if you don't have any plans. So, DJ, since you're back, I'm going to let you kind of dictate where we go. What do you want to talk about first?
That's dangerous.
I was thinking that.
Well, you're the Cody Rhodes fan, so what do you want to talk about?
Well, starting off, why don't we do a quick recap? I mean, that's what the Monday Night Rewind is, isn't it?
Yeah. So let's recap.
So, past couple weeks, I've been running Russell's M40 Speedway. Over the off season, got a new to me car, a Dodge Neon. And anything about new cars is a learning curve, right? Figuring out what it likes, what it doesn't like, tire pressures, gear ratios, things of that nature. And this car has really made me go back to the basics as far as setup is concerned, because I've been a GM guy all this time, running Chevy Cavaliers, Pontiac Sunfires, Grand Ams, Cobalts, things like that. So then this Neon came available because the Grand Am, it was pretty rusty. So I cut the down bars at the top hoop of the roll cage, and as soon as I did that, the whole bar just dropped down like 6 inches. So I grabbed it and it just wiggled. Mind you, I had not cut it from the floorboard yet, so it did give you an idea of how rusted out it was. Some guys say, "Oh, you can tube that up and make it stronger, or whatever, and make it a true road warrior for M40." I'm good. So I found this Neon, which was actually a former Ileana car, Ileana Speedway here in Cherryville.
Okay.
And so the guy that I got it from, he'd been running it in enduros at Grundy County, which that's on my bucket list for this year, is running Grundy at least once. But I found out the gearing in that car is not set up for big tracks yet. I've got some goodies coming for that this week, actually. And it's a good thing that M40 is off for this up week. That'll give me time to get everything set up for that. And so, but I'm really liking the fact that there's a lot of Neon guys that I've made contact with. One of them being Kaiser. He's been huge in helping me with set up this Neon and what I need for it. A couple guys that was out there at the track on Saturday, they say, "Hey, here's a good idea for you to try. Here's some parts to try." And so I'm willing to try anything at this point, because right now, currently with the gearing that it's got, I'm a 1.5 seconds off the pace. I mean, we're slower than a one-finger typist out there. So I got to do what I got to do to get up to speed, because the last thing I want is to have that thing to be basically a butter knife in a musket fight. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I'm at, just wanting to find speed, find the proper setup, what it likes, what it doesn't like, and go from there.
Your one-liners. If we had a drinking game, just all the one-liners. But anyways, go ahead.
What's up next then, DJ? M40 again?
What's that?
What's up next for you then? M40 again?
I'm debating on whether or not to go to New Paris this weekend for their Night of Destruction. Granted, I don't have anything to run for it. So people that know me know that I suck at watching, especially when I've been one to participate for so long.
I resemble that.
Mm-hmm. So I have a story since Keith is on here. One day I was at Plymouth. Yes, I do. It was I think it was one of their first nights of destruction right after they went to asphalt. And at the time I had an Oldsmobile that I had made a 311 car of my own, kind of showing Keith some appreciation for some things he did for me. And so I had my kids up there, and we was up in the stands waiting in between races or whatever we was watching. And Keith was sitting there next to me, and he kept fidgeting. He kept kind of rocking back and forth, up and down, moving about. I said, Keith, what are you doing, man? Yeah, that panel right there come off my 311 car. But he kept fidgeting. I said, man, what are you doing? He goes, man, I suck at watching. I says, well, aren't you usually running gate or security or something? He goes, nobody needs any help. So I'm sitting here watching. Like, okay, then. Well, now that I've been running as long as I have, I know what that feeling is. When you show up to a track, when you've been running for as long as you have, and you don't have anything to run that night, I totally understand where he's coming from now. Sucking at watching. However, the Night of Destruction that M40 put on a week or so ago, that was worth watching, especially with Victor there. And he put on quite the show with the South Bend truck. How he got his mitts on it, I have no idea. But he and Frank Gasco worked wonders with it. They're actually talking. I don't want to spoil too much with it, what they want to do with it, but that was well worth the watch. And if Steve-O, if you're watching, you did quite the job putting on the show there, loading that truck on that camper. So, but yeah, Victor, just as funny and obnoxious off camera as he is on camera. So if y'all haven't met him, you need to.
Oh yeah, well, and I've seen him, both versions of him in and out of character. So he's an awesome guy, and that was and I know they have big plans for that truck, and I hope they get to see all that through, because they want to make that, they want to keep that story going with it, give credibility still to the origin. They don't want to just make it a new thing. But between Jeremy Templeton and Victor, I'm excited, and they got Frank with them too. I mean, those are all three cool cats, what they're doing. So I know we've been very lucky to have them. And I don't know if you saw this on your screen or not, but Ralph with Pitbull Racing, he has the short bus over at New Paris. He said, I'll throw you in the bus. So I mean, you drive a bus all the damn time, so you might as well get in the short bus while you're at it. And,
well, I am a CDL licensed driver, and I work on buses for a living. So if he wants to put me in a bus in New Paris, sign me up.
Well, it's a big vehicle that he calls the bus.
I have a feeling that's not the first time someone's tried to put you in a short bus, DJ. I'm sorry.
No, we're not going to go there.
And I didn't, so remember, DJ.
I had to do it. I had to. So you put the ball on the tee, somebody's got to swing.
Yeah, I was not going to swing for it, but at least you did it, and I can't. Then you can say that I didn't do it, but that's something.
If there's anyone I can count on, it's Buju.
But you should. I know Galesburg would be such a far drive for you, but they had figure 8 bus racing, and that was something I hadn't seen bus racing like that before. I mean, in Kalamazoo, we have school bus racing for our Night of Destructions, but man, what Galesburg did, like I said, when Bob Garrett came and said, what'd you think about that? And a lot of staff did. I just kept saying, not only was I sports entertained, but then when they did all the stunts and they put the motorhome in the camper, and then they put the school bus in the motorhome that was already in the camper, I went cake, eating it too, made another cake and ate that one. So, and I know Zach Denton's on here. Zach was the one who jumped the bus. His dad had won in the bus feature, but then he jumped in and then rammed that thing right into the motorhome. So, you know,
Sounds like a Thanksgiving turducken.
It was. I was mentally exhausted from the night afterwards. Not tired, but just exhausted because my adrenaline was going through the roof. So DJ, you know, I know that I don't know what you could get at Galesburg, but at Galesburg they are very similar to Kalamazoo, where Dale McGann and Snails, and I know both of you probably know Snails. They provide a lot of the vehicles, and people can sign up for that. So you never know. I'm not saying it's a guarantee, but you don't have to bring your own. That's something that they connect, and they work out a deal with the drivers. I don't know all the deals, and I don't want to misquote anything, but something to possibly look into. If you bring yourself, you know, you might be able to, in advance, you might be able to make that connection and have a ride that you go put on a show and you get to leave for the night and don't have to worry about it. But
that'd be a blast.
So I know
that would be fun.
But yeah, and but you know, New Paris, like I said, Pitbull, Ralph Reese, he commented, you know, you come on out, you might be able to jump into something, or someone else might have a vehicle for you that you can jump into. So, so definitely, you know, when you come on out, and then before we forget, Keith, since we're talking about recapping, Keith, what are your plans for 2026? I know we touched base at South Bend Auto Show, but we didn't really get to talk about your plans. So, what are your plans?
Well, right now I've got a lot of work that needs done on the cars, and the money's not right to get everything done the way it needs to be done. So I'm helping out more on the track side of it, working the track, kind of like I did last year. Okay. Last 2 years, I've really been more part-time racing where I get opportunities, but I'm not out there on Facebook or anything just begging for opportunities. I mean, if somebody comes around and says, hey, I need some help with my car, or hey, can you run it in some hot laps? You kind of feel it out, or if you want to run a night or something like that, I'm all in. But so I guess I'm putting it out there now. But right now my cars are down, so I'm not actually full-time. But I'm helping out with working. This year I'm working the pit gate. Last year I did track safety truck, but we brought on a few more actual certified firemen on the track safety truck this year. So I'm helping out wherever's need be. And right now that's at the gate. So Friday night I was at Plymouth working the gate, and then Saturday I was at South Bend working the gate. So working the pit gate, getting other guys on and off the track.
Well, that's so when you started in DJ and Boujou, I mean, this is, you know, I'm the video guy, right? So a fan turned video guy. So I spend my money in a different way. But if you want to talk about, you know, 2 of you, 3 of you, whatever, and obviously we have a lot of racers and fans who are watching too, you know, so for like Keith, what is the biggest difference from when you first started as a Hornet driver before you timed out and you had to move up to the Outlaw front wheel drive, and then you moved up to street stock? Like, what's the biggest cost that has been the biggest difference for you and your team and your dad that you guys have noticed, just from front wheel drive Hornets or front wheel drives than the street stocks?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and it's kind of one of those answers that I really don't have a real direct answer on, only because each and every year has been so drastically different. I mean, as a Hornet, it was, you know, I got with Derek Davis and talked to him. I'm like, hey, if I'm going to get into this, what do I get into? He goes, you definitely want a Saturn. All right. He goes, I got one. I'll find one for you. And he did. And it was somebody was building a Saturn it's actually this car here. He was building a Saturn as a dirt car, never got a chance to race it in dirt. So I got it, put it on the asphalt, won that first night out with it, broke out a couple of weeks later, and had to move it up to a front wheel drive. Now at that time, that transition wasn't so bad, because at that time the breakout was 15 seconds. The top 2 or 3 of us in the Hornets could at any point run in the top 10 as a front wheel drive, just based on times that the cars were running. And then as time went on, as we put Hoosiers on them, as we put more work in the motors, as the class kind of builds and gets itself to another point, you know, the top end of the Hornets was running as fast as 14.8 because they moved the breakout time, but the front wheel drive class at that time was now low to mid 13s. So to jump into a front wheel drive from a Hornet, it was $1,000-$1,500 expense just to put Hoosiers and racing tires all the way around it. Because you're talking $500 or $600 for racing tires, another $75 to $100 per tire per wheel. So, I mean, just to move the same car up without putting any performance, without any extra cage work, without anything else, it was $1,000, $1,200 or so just to move the car up to the front wheel drives. And they still weren't as fast as even the top 10 as the front wheel drives, because the front wheel drives, I mean, especially with the Davises and I, and there was 6 or 7 Saturns right there alone, just in those 2 teams. And we were all running in the 13.2, 3, 13.4 range. I mean, it was, you had to be within a tenth or two just to make the top 8. And a lot of times, a lot of nights, it was 3 or 4 tenths just to make the A feature at all. So every year's kind of been different. Obviously, when you buy a whole new car like a street stock, you're talking a whole different level of performance and upgrades and parts and money and, bigger shops and things like that you just have to have, because the shop that we had before this one was a 2-car garage. It was a 20 by 24 garage. It was big enough for Dad and I to work our front wheel drives out of, but barely. I mean, we barely had enough room to actually work on them in there. To try to put 2 street stocks in there, let alone 2 street stocks and 2 front wheel drives and anything else and parts cars and there was just no way we were going to be able to do it. So, we've got this pole barn shop now that we have, but even this is not enough to get all that work done. So you're always looking for more. So every year the expenses just keep going up. Every year the performance keeps getting better. As every one of these teams keeps running the same tracks, whether it be Plymouth or South Bend or like what you're seeing with New Parish, Kalamazoo, or a lot of the other tracks that you cover, the guys that are regulars at those tracks, they keep figuring things out. They keep finding new things. I'm sure a lot of them are like me, where they sit in their shop, and there'll be times I'm just sitting here looking down the side of my car. Or I'll be sitting here in silence, not talking, not thinking, not listening to the radio, just kind of staring at the car with no real intent in mind. And then all of a sudden you have an idea. You go, damn, I wonder if, and then you start tweaking on it and finding things, or, hey man, when I was on turn 2 and it did this, or you start thinking of things and you just keep tweaking and you keep finding more. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. But even those times where it doesn't work, you learn something. So you learn what it didn't like and you go a different direction. And I mean, that's how all these guys keep getting faster. That's how Friday night, Dirty D set a new track record down there at Plymouth. First night we were open, he set a new track record. Guys are always just tweaking and thinking and finding, and sometimes you hit that right weather condition and the track is right and the tires are right and everything hooks up, and all of a sudden another track record falls. And every year we all see track records fall. So every class just keeps getting faster and faster every single year. All the drivers keep getting better and better. So it's just an ever evolving sport, ever evolving situation.
Well, at New Paris on Trifecta night, every record went down, and Bug broke his own record twice in the same qualifying. Wow. Back-to-back laps. And so that was something that, you keep hearing some of these times. And I know at one time, you guys in the Outlaw front wheel drives, especially at South Bend, the top core was getting to be as fast as the street stock, and sometimes faster. Yeah. Like when Andrew Coates was the top dog at South Bend, and in championship contention, and then winning championships, that there are nights that some of those Outlaw front wheel drives are faster than what he was. And so it doesn't work that way at Plymouth as well. I mean, the street stocks are definitely faster at Plymouth than South Bend, but at South Bend there was many nights where I was qualified top 2 or 3 in the front wheel drives, and I would have been top 3 or 4 in the street stocks. Yeah. Just based on time. Now, obviously, the classes are totally different, and it's way different driving both cars. I mean, I know, because I have both cars, and I still don't feel like I've got as well a grip on the street stock class as I did the front wheel drives, but that's just a feel thing for me. I mean, I always felt like I was more on the track than in the track, so it's just a matter of continuing to learn that class. And once I get back out, that's definitely going to be a high priority. But yeah, based on times, we would have been top 5 for sure in street stocks. But like I said, South Bend's a bit different animal in that regard, because it's less of a motor track than what Plymouth is. Some of the bigger tracks, the motor really helps a little bit more. You got more of the momentum and everything that you can carry on with. And we get more corner speed, I think, than they do, but they've definitely got straightaway power on us. So then, DJ, for you, thinking of what, Keith just mentioned, the different things, you started as a night of destruction guy, converted over to the weekly racing. So you went from purposely crashing cars, or like your ex-wife's truck or things like that, to, getting into the weekly, doing the weekly, jumping the Hornets and that kind of deal. So like for you, not considering your travel, because you do have to travel quite a bit to most tracks, What are some things like you have noticed? Because a lot of people, it's a big conversation on many, pages where they're constantly talking about costs. And I think obviously with the economy and, they're predicting gas is going to go up towards, $5 plus. I know you probably closer to Illinois might even be paying some of that already. And so what are some things that you have noticed in your short time of racing that has been like a big difference for you?
Well, as you said, got started in the Knights of Destruction, and I'll tell a quick story to kind of answer your question as I get along into it. So, I started off. The first car I ever had was a Pontiac Sunfire, and it was relatively clean. And before I ever put it on the track as the Night of Destruction car, me not knowing anything about any weekly racing or what's competitive, what isn't, setup, power, whatever. I had no idea. I just found a $200 car and decided to go run it. And so guys were offering to buy it off of me before I ever turned laps in it. And then shortly thereafter, people like Tyler Casper, among others, like, dude, you need to turn this thing to a Hornet. And I'm over like, what's a Hornet? And then as I learned more about it, looked it up on YouTube. At the time, the only real available videos for South Bend was through Dimmitt Race Videos, James Dimmitt. And I think that's kind of about the time you were starting to get started there. And it was actually the first video of yours that I saw was when I rolled the ex-wife's truck there before I officially converted over to full-time Hornet racing. More on that later. But when I got into Hornet racing, and the weekly racing program in general, one thing I did notice is that there's a lot more level of a competition in the weekly racing versus just going out there smashing things up, having a good time. Now, granted, in the weekly program, I'm out there having a good time anyway, whether I'm running out front or whether I'm a second and a half off the pace in a new car that I'm trying to figure out. But I have noticed where my weekly racing instincts, if I'm running a Night of Destruction, sometimes will overlap. Because there was one time I was running a Grand Prix at South Bend in I think it was their October race back in 22, 23, somewhere in there. And Dustin Smith had his car out there. We're going down the backstretch, and we actually locked horns a little bit going down the backstretch. Well, when we broke free of each other, he got out front, got loose, and spun in front of me. And I smacked him in the right rear corner and spun him around. Instinctively, I lifted thinking the yellow was going to come out. And then I looked down, I'm like, stupid, you're in a knot. We're still green. And I wound up winning the round. So I'm having to retrain myself whenever I purposefully get into a nod vehicle. We are staying green until they throw checkers or red. We're going out there to see checkers or see Elvis, and there's no in between, DJ. Just stand on it. Even when I'm out there Night of Destruction racing, I'm still racing, because I have that mentality of saving the car because, like you say, expenses. It gets expensive building yet another car. I mean, yeah, there have been times I've gone out there, I've spent quite a bit of money on a Night of Destruction car, ready to roll, hoping I'll make it last a little bit. 2 laps in, it gets wadded up like an accordion. So I'm like, well, there goes that money. But
see, I do the same thing when I go out there for the nods.
What's that?
When I go out there for the nods, I'm thinking racing. I'm not thinking wrecking. I'm thinking racing all the way.
I'll let you tell your construction race story here in a second. But
all right.
yeah. So but it does get expensive to build the cars and so because you got to find a car that nobody wants anymore or is just too far gone to be a street car. You got to gut it. You got to find the steel to reinforce the door area. And if there's any mechanical issues like that 311 car I pointed out that I had, it had been sitting at that point for 7 years. And I had to do a lot of work just to get it running. And thankfully I had it rolling for about a year before it finally bit the dust. But for the weekly racing, Yeah, as far as traveling is concerned, I live in Griffith, Indiana. So South Bend, that's an hour. Plymouth, hour and 15. New Paris is an hour and 40. M40 is almost 2 hours. Galesburg and Springport, they're between 2 and 2.5 hours for me. But I'm willing to do it because here's the one thing. Despite all expenses, despite how far of a travel it is, I do it because I love the sport and I love doing what I do. And every time I'm on track, I'm learning something. Like he was saying, there's a learning curve. And the day you quit learning is the day you need to get out of the car. But it's the love for the sport. It's something that I feel like I've been able to it's allowed me to kind of find myself following some tragedy in 2021. And yeah, there are going to be times where I run part-time. There are going to be times where I'll need to take a whole season off, but I'm going to keep doing whenever I can because I love the sport. I think we all can agree on that.
Oh, yeah.
So, and not to mention the friendships that have been forged along the way. I'd be stupid to hang it up this early.
I think that's the thing that a lot of people don't always think about is, right, they're, the passion. And I think sometimes there are racers who forget the passion side of things, that it's become so business like mentality that the passion doesn't feel as strong. And right, wrong, and different, that everyone operates differently, right? But sometimes I think that's something I've noticed has been a big change and is a cost. It's not a financial cost, but it's a cost to short track racing, is that sometimes, because look at high school sports. They're now doing what college sports are doing. College sports are doing what professional, right? You just always see these trickle downs where now little leagues are doing what high school sports were doing, and middle school sports are doing, and what high schools were doing. Like that, sometimes in racing we've gotten so buttoned up that we forget that passion behind it. And that's not everybody, but sometimes that's some of the things that I feel like I have noticed is, man, someone needs to go back to Disney, find the smile on their face, and come back. Like wherever that is for them. It's like Happy Gilmore, happy place. Find your happy place. So that's where I know your passion shines all the way through, DJ.
That might be a 60 Seconds with Six topic coming up, finding your happy place. We'll stay tuned with that.
Yep. Well, and that's something that even with Keith, you and your dad, right, have an incredible story where racing brought you back together after years of being away, right? But then, you're someone who, you're not in a car as much as you were before but you still found a way to be a part of it, and you still find a way to advocate for the sport. You still find a way to be a part of it. And I think sometimes, again, that's like you both are models for like, hey, you know what? This is supposed to be fun for some people. And I know, DJ, this is true of you, and Keith, it's been true of you. Like, this is also an escape from like everyday kind of things, and I think sometimes drivers need to be reminded that, like, this is fun. And if it's just business for you and it's not fun and it's not all these things, then it might be time to step away for a little bit. Find yourself in the stands and see if you can rekindle that. See if you can find that passion again, like when you were little and exposed to it for the first time or whatever, right? Like, I know things are expensive, but as Buju has said before, sometimes drivers are their own worst enemy. It's expensive because the drivers want to go faster. It's expensive because drivers want to do more. They want to, all these things. And obviously, I know it's not Derek. Oh my gosh, why am I drawing blank?
What's the car number?
Drew Davis. There you go. I had to think. I had to go through my D's. Drew's on here, and he's kind of talked about where he said he got to a point where I'm not going to say anything more, right? But it's those costs, and right. So I think that's the thing, that passion is a cost. It's not a financial cost, but it can cost tracks, right? So and drivers, like, so I think that's, again, just don't ever lose the passion that you guys have for it, because that's what it's supposed to be about. And it's nice to win, don't get me wrong, but you got to have the passion.
Yes, it is.
What are we doing, right? Like, let NASCAR be NASCAR, and NASCAR has its audience. Let short track racing, be its short track racing self. It's grassroots. It's, your mom and pop who work, 60 hours a week just so they can go put some tires on and turn left and go fast, right? And have their kind of dream of just racing. And yeah, they're not going to make it to NASCAR, but they're out there having the time of their life. Like that's what I sometimes think we need to remember.
And along those lines, while we're thinking about it, NASCAR versus short track racing, I'm gonna say something that probably a lot of people are probably gonna bristle up at me for. We're not out here to be the next Dale Earnhardt. We're out here to be DJ McCotter, Keith Beringer, Buju, and run our own courses, run our own races, and write our own stories.
Well, and those stories are what's important, right? And that's what I like about the Monday Night Rewind. We get to learn stories, tell stories. There's no like true format to this. Like we have an idea of what it looks like, but it's a shoot first, aim second. Like there's no script here. It's just where does the conversation go, because it should be natural, right? DJ is DJ. DJ doesn't need to be. And I think sometimes when you get like third generation, fourth generation racers, right? Sometimes that pressure gets there, purposeful or not purposeful. Like I promise you, there are parents who are like, I don't want them to be like me. I wish they would stop trying to be like me, or try, like I want them to do their own thing, or I'm not coaching them because I want them to learn it themselves, right? Like, I made mistakes and I want them to figure it out. But I sometimes think there's that pressure, natural or unnatural, that comes with even being that deep into it. That it's like, hey, just remember, just go race.
Well, to your point, even DJ's asked me a few times over the years. She's like, why are people remembering who I am? Why are people, asking me to do this, or why, how is it they even know who I am? And I have to remind him, it's all about personality. He's DJ, singing his praise while he's sitting here, but he's got a big personality, more than he realizes. He's got, a multitude of talents with singing the national anthem and being willing to wear a fire suit 90% of the time. And no, you still ain't got your uniform on.
No.
And a lot of us in the pit pick on him, but he begs for it a lot of times. He asks for it a lot of times. Now, some of the guys take it too far. Sometimes they cross a line, and DJ gristles up a little bit, and it's time to remind a few guys that, all right, enough's enough. But, he's got a huge personality, great personality, a great sense of humor, soaks it all up most of the time. And, there's a reason why, he's doing the 60 on 6. And, I've talked to DJ a bunch over the years that, we should do a podcast or find something we can do to contribute to the sport, whether it's, getting back in the announcer's booth together again, like we've been able to do a time or two. And, that's always a good time. And speaking of that, Buju, you sound like you did an amazing job. I wasn't able to get over there, but heard a lot of drivers talking about how good you did over there, and how a lot of fans talking about your time over there on the mic at New Paris.
And I'll echo that too, because it sounded like you did fantastic. It sounded natural, actually.
I appreciate it. Thank you, boys. It was fun. It was a good time.
I think he was shitty, but anyways, he knows what I think.
Well, none of us have a problem talking, so that's never an issue.
And I recruited him, right? I'm the one who reached out because I knew he'd be able to do it. So, when Chris was looking for someone, I said, I know who I can ask. What do you think about this? And Chris Mandel said, go for it. So, I reached out to Buju and said, what are you doing on Saturday? I don't know yet. Might be going M40. Well, what about an opportunity that you could also get paid to be at the racetrack? So, and he did just fine, even though he was nervous as hell and all that kind of deal. Once the mic got going, he knew what to do. So,
with him being nervous, that just shows how much it cared. That just shows how much it meant to him.
In that street stock race, I told Tracy, because Tracy, she climbs up to the roof at some point in the night to check on me, make sure I'm okay and all that. And, they know at New Paris, they'll say, well, do you need any food? We know you won't eat it, but do you want any food? What do you need? And no, I'm good. I just show up and I don't ask for anything or demand anything other than the ladder to get up to the roof. But that's something that she came up and said, I heard it was good. And I said, wait until you hear Buju. I mean, you could just turn off the feed of the video. I mean, watch the video, but you can turn off the video and listen. And that's all you have to do is listen. And he's in my left ear, right? So I'm hearing him the whole time. And I'm like, he's making this more exciting on top of the excitement it already is. Like, with that, the way that he did it, the way his tone, the way his cadence with his words and his excitement. And he said he was pacing during that. I imagine so, because I couldn't hear his steps, but you could just hear him be a fan. And I think, that's what made that so incredible for his debut. And I bet if you asked a lot of people, if he didn't even announce it, he did tell them it was his debut. I bet if you went to people and said, how often have you done this? They would think all the time, right? So again, not to sing your praise, Buju, but I mean, you did an incredible job with that. So just remember, when you're famous, who recruited you to do that? Remember the little guy.
I appreciate it.
And
guys.
Lewis, you mentioned how it sounded like Buju was just being a fan. Isn't that how the Buju Bull Ring got started?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and when I saw that Mottville video, that's when I reached out to him and saying, hey, is there a way that I can help get this out more? Right. Because I've built a decent platform. Right. And so it's like, how can we bring more exposure to that? And all of his episodes have done, really well, and it's gotten out there. And then he obviously does the Twitter side. I don't do the Twitter side, but then on Twitter, right, he's doing this and getting Dale Earnhardt and Mark Martin and all these other, big time people to see that. And so that's cool to see that too, because it's like, again, it's being recognized, and that kind of content is what's missing, so Buju, instead of copying and pasting somebody else and trying to be just like that person and doing exactly what they do, he went and found his own avenue. And I think that's what stands out, is that he made his own creativity and his own lane to drive in.
And I asked Buju one day, because at that point, I think he had done episode 3 or 4 or something like that. And I would ask him, well, when's the next one coming out? Well, then one day I said, so when are you going to do South Bend? This was just before they had announced that they were going to bring it back for their October show or whatever. And mind you, each episode is anywhere between 5 and 8 minutes long. And I'll never forget this. I says, when are you going to do South Bend? He says, man, I don't know if I'm going to have a way to squeeze all my knowledge and love of South Bend into a 17-hour episode.
No.
Because South Bend is home for us, right? And South Bend holds a special place for us all.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably the most common question I've gotten. I mean, just, I guess, being a South Bend kid, is when is the South Bend episode coming? And I mean, the track story isn't done yet, so that's part of it. We've thought it was a few times, but so far we're still kicking. So I want to wait until its story is over, and it's not over. So that's part of it. But also, it's such a big story that I know it's like there's nobody else that's going to tell it, but I don't even feel that I'm the guy to tell it, because I'm so close to it, if that makes any sense. I don't know. It's tough. I love South Bend.
If that's your criteria, if that's your criteria on when that episode comes out, let's hope it never has to come out.
Yeah. Amen.
Well, and just kind of think, I mean, even right here in this group, like we talked at the beginning of the episode, that, for the first time in this Monday night thing, which I know is only 14 episodes in, but 14 episodes in, that everybody on the screen right now was there before, like, Top Row, right? Like, we all knew each other before Top Row even became a thing. Buju got his start at South Bend. DJ, you got your start at South Bend. You found yourself at South Bend. Keith, you're at South Bend, right? Like, so then even everybody in this common box here, their roots are at South Bend. That track has such a important piece, for all of us. And while my first racing days were at Santa Fe Speedway, my Top Row was established right at the Top Row, coming out of turn 4. That's what sometimes sucks about the current state of affairs between everybody, right? Not on the screen, but other people who won't be named. But, is that it's like, just how incredibly frustrating and stupid, by the way, that has become. So, someone screen record that, by the way, and share that out. But, it's one of those, because that's what will happen. They all have spies, but, but that's what's so, unfortunate, right? Is that, you have that history, at a very special place to a lot of people.
Yeah.
Well, Lewis, let me sing your praises here for a moment, because you're mentioning back to the beginning, before Top Row began. I mean, one of the first times I remember talking to you, you came back in the pits and you were talking to me and my dad, and my dad and I have talked all the time. When my dad got into racing a year after I did, well, this style of racing, he's been doing demos and everything way back in the 70s. That's how we grew up at the track. But I told him all the time, I said, we might not always see it. We might not ever hear it. We definitely don't always know who's watching, but they are definitely watching. And you were a prime example of that, because when you came back to the pits and you were chatting with us, hell, you were spouting off stats of mine and my dad's that I didn't even know, that I hadn't even remembered, that I didn't even take the time to write down or bother remembering. And, you are talking about somebody that's very passionate about the sport. Put yourself right in there with that conversation, because very few people take that passion and put the investment and full-time effort into what they're doing for the sport and with the sport, much like you are. So definitely, I know you're thinking small time. Yeah, I know you're thinking you're small time, but you're bigger than 90% of the people out there even thinking about it. And, when you were, like DJ said, when you were in the classroom, I know myself, I know Charlie Hanna, I know a lot of other people came up to you asking, all right, well, when are you going to do this full time? Because it's definitely coming. And you finally made that decision when it was right for you, but we all saw it coming. We all knew that that's where you were headed. So bigger and better things are out there for you yet to come too. You're not anywhere near where you're going to be.
Well, and you're one of those first to really bring it up. Not the only, but you were one of those first ones early to ask, right? Lewis, when is this all going to come together where you realize, right? And so, and I hold those words, right? All three of you on here, I have a high respect for and, a huge fan of. I mean, I wouldn't be giving Buju the platform to be a co-host on this and to have his, bull rings and recruit him to be the, a voice at New Paris. Like, if I didn't have that respect for him, he wouldn't be on here right now. And DJ, right, your story and just your passion for that. And then Keith, seeing how you just did so well where you connected with fans. You made purposeful attempts to come through. And that's why it was so easy, when I was coming up with like the driver spotlights, which are just on pause because it's the beginning of the season. They did not go away. They're just, let's get some races in so that way I get new stats to highlight everyone that's racing, right? And so usually in June is when they bring him back. So we're a couple weeks away from him coming back, but it made it really easy then for me, to write those driver spotlights, because I would think of people like DJ. I would think of people like you, Keith, that, let's put the spotlight, and I think you're my third official spotlight, that I did.
Yeah, because, very first day.
Yep. So that was, and it was unannounced, and you were the first ones to come up and say, hey, you got, it was like later on in the season, you got people in the pits on Wednesdays looking at their phone to see if they're next, right? Like that, everyone got excited for that. And are they coming up and to be a part of that? And that just kind of grew naturally, right? But that's where, again, like you've gotten to see the progression. DJ's gotten to see that progression. I mean, Buju and his Davis family were the first ones I sponsored, right? So it's one of those things.
All 40 of them.
Yep. So yeah,
all 40 of them.
The Stevensville Meyer, sold a lot of purple Gatorade at that time, so they knew when I was coming. So they knew what day. I was pretty routine about it, and sometimes I walk in and they'd say, "We're getting the Gatorade now," and I'm like, they didn't have any because LYBSA would clean it out, and I'm like, well, shoot, I got to beat the baseball teams now, but that's something that again. That's why you guys stand out, right? Because you've made those connections. I mean, as you said, DJ's in fire suit like 24/7. Not now, of course, but
now there is a reason that I do that. Okay. And starting off, it was all right. Well, this is just the mindset was, well, I put this on. This is what I'm supposed to wear from the time I get in the car to the time I'm done, right? But then I started noticing at South Bend, especially, is that people started affiliating me with the fire suit as being a driver, and it started sparking conversation. I started meeting people that way. I started making friendships along the way. And so from that point forward, it just started becoming a thing. People give me a hard time about it. It's like, all right, whatever. Like, oh, you got to have some sort of heat resistance to be wearing that in the dog days of summer. Yeah, whatever. Shut up. And then And then a little secret got out that whenever tax time came around, I would get a new one, every year or so. I didn't get a new one this year. I had other financial obligations with said taxes. But anyway, but then I would start making it my own personal, with the LHR badge, with now it's got Beringer Creations on the FedEx suit or whatever, an American Nightmare badge on the back of it, so and people notice that, and I get compliments all the time. Dude, I love your suit. And then I start to walk away and they see the American Nightmare of Cody Rhodes on the side. Man, that's awesome. That's on a fire. And again, it allows me to have a conversation piece and meet people and add people on Facebook and get connected with the sport and things like that. So, but then there are times where I'm just absolutely wore out. I'm tired, get the car loaded, and I don't even bother taking the suit off. I just jump in the truck and head to the house. And there have been a couple people that see me at the gas station shortly thereafter. See, you must sleep in that thing. Yeah, whatever, Derek. I know you're watching. Brendan,
I'm still disappointed.
among others.
I'm disappointed I'm still disappointed you retired that Eagle One suit.
Hey, it got officially retired on September 5th, all right, 2024. It was officially retired. And when I found it, there was actually 3/4 of the suit still left. I'm like, man, this thing must still actually have some resistance to fire, man. So, but, and then I'm like, well, it's already destroyed. Let's see what this thing will really do. So I took a Zippo lighter and seen just how long it took for it actually to start burning and putting a hole. It took a couple of minutes, actually. I was quite impressed. So
why we wear them.
But what's that?
So that's why we wear them.
Yeah. But getting back onto singing your praises a little bit, Lewis, the first time I actually heard your name, I'm like, who's that? They point up to the top row south end and said, you see that guy with the iPad? So, and then I saw bits and pieces of your work before you released. At the time, it was Top Row Racing videos.
Yeah.
And then it was like 3 days, if that, after the Night of Destruction, where I had purposed in my heart to destroy that Blazer, that I saw the truck enduro presented by Top Row Racing videos, and I saw the whole thing unfold in real time through your lens, and how you zoomed in on the truck flipping over and zoomed in on me throwing my hands out of the window, and then the guys rolling it over. And I seen you kind of peer over to where I was talking to the guys like, can I get back in?
Yeah.
And I thought that was so cool watching and seeing how it's progressed over the years with the banners that you got on each, with showing what it is, where you're at, what feature, and of course, now you made that jump from videos to media, because you're not just doing videos. Of course, this podcast is proof of that. But you're doing amazing work, man. And I think I can speak for us all and those of us watching. We're very much appreciative of what you do, and the fact that you could be making a ton of money on it, but for people like us, you don't charge a dime. And we're very appreciative of that.
Oh, well, this isn't about me, by the way, just so you know. This is about you guys. But I do appreciate that. Well, and that's, even in the chat, we have Ronnie. So his daughter last year at Galesburg, he is a firefighter. He raced the school bus that got hit, the firefighter-looking school bus that got, hit. I mean, he took a good hit in the X, but anyways, he's also a front wheel drive racer at Galesburg, primarily at Galesburg area. But his daughter came up last year. I was talking with Liz Edwards, who at Springport, I don't think you guys got to meet, but otherwise I would have purposely introduced you to Liz Edwards, because she is a top-notch person. And so anyways, I was talking with Liz afterwards, because she works at Galesburg, and I was getting her stickers because they wanted some stickers. So Ronnie's daughter comes up and is just waiting there so quietly and so patiently, and says, I watch your videos all the time. Can I have a sticker? And in my first head, I thought of my principal being right there. because my principal, I always tell people I didn't leave the classroom because of my principal. And even in my resignation letter, I made sure that the district knew I'm not leaving because of my principal. I am a big fan of my principal. And she's one of those who's never forgotten what it was like to be in the classroom. So I wanted the district to know I'm not leaving because of her. Because a lot of times that's why people leave the classroom, is because of like admin. And it's like, it's not her that I'm leaving for. But anyways, I thought my principal, doing this and like her heart melting, like that was the first thought that came to my head. And Liz did that. And that was so cool, that moment, right? Because it's like, that's always remembering. You don't know, like when I'm in the stands, I don't know who watches and who doesn't watch, and and all these kind of things. But then to have like Ronnie's daughter, come up and say that. I had a couple kids on Saturday who came up to me. They said, "We love your videos. We love your videos." And it's like, so it's always a reminder, right? Like when you guys say they're always watching or someone's always watching. There's even a kid will come around and say, "I want to be just like you." And they'll stand next to me recording with their phone, or they'll take pictures with their phone, like at Kalamazoo. They'll stand by me, and that's cool, right? Because it's like, I just kind of think there's a photographer in Ohio who was a little smug. I'm not obviously going to say the outlet, but they were judging phonographers, and so I knew how their following was and everything. I think Buju, I've told you this story, I think, where I just turned to the photographer who was being really like mean to this kid without the kid knowing that they were being mean. And I went, how long have you been doing this? And they said, of course, the answer, which I mostly knew. And I said, and how many followers do you have? Because I benchmark everybody. How many followers do you have? And I said, so if this were the Yankees Stadium, I would be sitting behind home plate eating a hot dog on TV while the Fox Sports talk about it. And you'd be way up in the nosebleeds. And I've been doing a lot less. And I built, at that time, it's 25,000 followers on an iPhone and an iPad. I said, you let the kid take pictures. They're documenting something that is important to them. So it's like, we got to remember that too, right? Like, fancier equipment doesn't make you any better. So just like I would tell people, my master's degree didn't make me a better teacher. It just gave me more knowledge and more tools, but it doesn't make me better, right? I'm more in debt. Like, that's all.
Well, and Lewis, you say it's not about you, but I tell you what, when you talk about passion for the sport, when you talk about being part of the racing family, I guarantee you, every one of us on this screen right now, and most of us watching right now, we all include you as just as much an important part of that racing family and for what everybody's doing. You may not be in the car as often as we are, but what you're putting out there is giving the reach for, like you said, those fans that don't get a chance to get to the track, or that aren't local to our area in other states, to be able to watch what we're doing here. So, we all thank you for that. I know you say it's not about you, but you're just as much a part of what we're doing to put on this show for the fans as we are.
Well, with that in mind, how many states has Top Row Racing Media actually reached?
Well, I haven't got to
that you know of.
I haven't. So
let's put a race on.
Well, so Buju would know this with his. So in Meta, for example, Meta gives reports on like video clips, not on pictures yet. I wish they would on pictures, because pictures sometimes go further than video clips, surprisingly. But that's where, on average, most race weekends, I reach at least 26% to 27% of the U.S. states on average. And that's
awesome.
And that's top 10 at least once within the video. So if there's a night that I don't post as much, which this year I've been purposeful of not posting as much, I've actually cut back on what I post, and it's irritating some people. I'm like, I just want to make sure I'm never put in a position where a racetrack comes to me and says, I think people are watching your videos and they're not coming to the track because they know you're here. And so I've even cut back on that, where I'm being mindful of not putting as much out there, not posting as much, because I don't want to put myself in that spot, And so I take a percentage of the night. I do the math at home before I go to the track. Okay, about how many laps could I post tonight? That's a very small percentage. And I try to stay to that as much as possible. But that's something that Meta then, gives a report of top 10. So I know usually in Canada, I get like Quebec and all that. That's pretty routine. And because of a racer, you guys didn't meet, but you both have watched Todd Metz Jr., right? Or
yeah.
Todd Metz Jr.
Yeah, we know Todd.
Yep. So you remember that racer from Australia who came here to America a couple times? So Australia actually, especially Night of Destructions, Galesburg had a huge hit in Australia and England because they love the Night of Destruction kind of stuff and the bang banger stuff. So like I know at New Paris, last year, in fact, at New Paris, the New Paris fire truck, the number one, and one of the clips, the number one territory, England.
Nice.
I don't know why. And we've also had that at Super Show, a bowling ball. Literally Dylan Stovall throwing a bowling ball. 5 million views. The number one, England. Number two was Texas. That was the only time Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio didn't make the top 10.
I don't know if you've ever seen the racing that they do in England, but it's like I've seen it. It's like the old super modified style cars. And there'll be somebody parked against the wall and they all barrel into them on purpose.
Yes.
So that's what they're into apparently.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know Night of Destruction's there. So yeah, so on average, my average, and it's a pattern, go from Quebec, Canada, down to Florida, and any state and everything between. I don't get a lot of where the cows are. So like New Mexico has, or not New Mexico, it's Wyoming. Like Wyoming, for every one human is 4 cows, 4 to 5 cows. And so the cows aren't watching me apparently because I don't get a hit in like Wyoming. I think Wyoming's the only, or I think Wyoming I've gotten once. Idaho is a big one. There's a group out in Idaho that's been following, and I'm getting a big Idaho following. And I'm like, I've never even been to Idaho, but I don't know how they found me, but so I know it's a long way to answer, but it's like I take all those metrics and I'm just going to say what's on average. But I think the only state I've not ever gotten was Alaska and Hawaii are the only two that I can't prove that I've hit. So every other state at least once has made the top 10 at that point. So and Louisiana. No, Michigan Cup, I got Louisiana once, but otherwise that one is like every state around it I can get, but Louisiana. And I'm like, come on, my name is in Louisiana. Can I get one damn person in Louisiana? And I may, but I can't prove it, right? If they did a top 25, I'd have a lot more, right? They do top 10. And so I always tell people I don't fluff my metrics. I don't pay for my metrics. It's all natural. I don't boost anything. I have not spent any money boosting, because I mean, all the research says to not do that. So it does get out far and wide, but like Galesburg, if they saw some of the numbers for Australia and England, snails might pop over and say, I need to go over across the pond and down under. So, and do his motorcycle. But yeah, that was, I just know like this Saturday at New Paris, one of those countries is going to pop in that top 10 at some point because it's banging. Not circle racing, but crashing. So it's crazy to think. I mean, who would have thought a few years ago, right? I do sometimes think about this when we all knew each other. I mean, Boujou would know. I was at the fence one time talking with them after passing over the Gatorade going, man, I only have like 110 followers right now. And that was May 2022. I remember because they had some yellow Gatorade too that day. Meyer did not have enough purple for them. But, so I remember that and remember talking, and Derek Davis is like, oh, you'll get there. You'll get there. Never thought. If you told me I would have even had 10,000, I would have said, there's no way. That's not
42,000 later.
Yeah, I mean, it's still, but that's where I try to remain grounded, right? You're not going to find me in too many photos. In fact, I tell the photographer, it's not about me. I said, actually, even with this podcast, when I reached out to Drew, I had no interest in being on a podcast and hosting it or anything like it. It was not up my wheelhouse. I enjoy it though, because I get to talk with drivers and help tell their story. But that's something that when podcasts, it's like I like it that there's people who think there's 10 of me running around.
Well, you say there's not very many videos, but I'm looking at this banner that's over here on my wall, and I think you're in that photo up there on the wall. Oh,
that's cool. Yeah, I try not to be in photos though, but I know Jay Freak got a photo of me the one time, and he called me from the bird's eye view, and then Fast Lane Images and Cody Geyer. And I'm like, I'm not supposed to be in that. Oh yeah, in the corner over there.
Yeah, you're up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, right there.
So that's where, again, it's like it's just cool when I think about this. I'm like, man, everyone on here is pre-top row. We knew each other before then. So, and see everyone's growth. I mean, again, Keith, if you want to talk a little bit, because this is enough shit about me, and I don't talk too often. So, but I do appreciate it because, again, there are times that, what was it the other day? Someone at Galesburg was talking with me about stuff, and I said, it's times are tough for everybody, right? But it's like, if people knew how much money I've lost doing this, I could afford to go to the track for many years as a fan if I spent the money I lost just being a fan. But I'm like, but I enjoy it. I enjoy being at the track. I enjoy helping to, show those moments. I mean, think of that camper and the bus, like Zach will have that, crashing that bus into a motorhome that crashed into a camper as long as internet's existent. Right. So it's one of those moments that you can relive that at any time. First wins, those are important. But like I said, enough about me. Keith, we've talked about how DJ made the connection and talking about like him being in the fire suit and even going to the gas station in the fire suit, which also doesn't surprise me. But one thing, Keith, and why you and even my stepdad would say this too, who went, always went to South Bend with me, and Gregory Kirk, set up there. I made friends with him. You and your dad, and even before your dad raced, you walked the pit, or not the pit, you walked the grandstands. You'd have T-shirts, you'd have hats, and not super fancy hats. So what's something what made you do that? What made you say, I'm going to go sit with the fans. I'm going to go hand out hats or T-shirts or stickers or candy or whatever? Because you don't see that. Like when I grew up going to even Ileana and Grundy, I connected a lot with like, oh my gosh, I just drew their name. We talked about them literally the other day for Schulers. We connected with Schulers and others because they would go out in the stands and they'd give tire turds to kids from the tires, and that's it.
Yeah.
And that's like the coolest thing ever, right? So you just don't see that a lot too often right now, unless it's like autograph night. You don't see a lot of drivers going into the stands and just hanging out or sitting there with the fans, like picking a fan and saying, hey, can I watch races with you or whatever? And that's something that you did. That's why you stood out to me, and I became a fan of you because of that. I never got a hat or anything of those times. I got a hat later. But at that time, right, it was just so cool seeing you guys. So what made you do that?
Well, I think you've mentioned it before. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just fans ourselves. I mean, we get into this sport because we love this sport. We get into the sport because we grew up being fans of this sport. Whether we were at the track every week or whether it was just a once a summer thing that we got a chance to do on a special occasion, we got a chance to meet a driver, or, my dad on occasion would find some random body part and have the driver to sign it, autograph it for me and bring it home. I wasn't even at the track, but he would bring it home and we would share stuff like that. So, I mean, at the end of the day, we're all just fans anyway. So to be able to go out into the crowd, and especially with the younger generation, especially with the kids, because to those kids in that grandstand at South Bend or Plymouth or Galesburg or Kalamazoo or anywhere else, those kids don't know that we're not NASCAR. To those kids, we are NASCAR drivers. To those kids, we are that hero, that driver hero that they're growing up watching and loving and paying attention to. We're that accessible hero that they can talk to. We're that accessible driver that they can talk to, that they can have access to. So it gives them more of a bridge to their level of reality as to what's possible for themselves, whether it be getting into racing or anything else they want to dream and aspire to be on their own level. The more that we do stuff like that, especially with that younger generation. Even Saturday, I mean, I was working the track, and there was fans of mine and friends of mine that had their kids and their newborn baby. They've now got 4, and I'm randomly picking up pebbles or something off the racetrack, so I passed a couple through to them, and I mean, those kids love that. They cherish stuff like that. They've got an entire bedroom full of stuff, body parts of mine hanging from their ceilings in their bedrooms or their walls in their bedrooms. I've got other drivers that their kids had found me as their favorite driver, and they've got spare tires and they've got spare parts and spare this. And I mean, every week at the track, they'd come over and go, can I have a part? Can I have a piece? Can I have anything that they could do to, be a part of what we're doing? But that builds their passion just like we have. And that's how our passion got built when we were kids. And it just feels like a natural thing to do.
And echoing off of that a little bit, That's one thing that I've been able to do with my kids. Jody being 8 years old, he's getting more curious and more interested. Just yesterday, I had the car on the trailer out front of the house, and I was under the hood doing something that I knew I needed to get inside the car and fix a couple things. My son wanders out there and says, "Daddy, what you doing?" And I told him, "Can I help?" And that gave me an opportunity to say, well, I'm going to need this tool or that tool, or, hey, can you, I climb in the car. Hey, let me show you what I'm doing. And, getting back to the fire suit thing, that's something that I think Keith can agree to is as those kids superstars, if you will, want to present it to where we're approachable, to where we're not so arrogant and pompous as a driver. So, oh, he's big shot. No. Come talk to us. I want to be available to the fans if they want to talk to me.
And much of my pit crew has been that way. People are like, man, I'd like to get around. I'd love to be involved, but I don't know the first thing. I'm like, come on out. Come in the pits. We will find something that you can help us do, because every bit of help in the pits helps, whether it be checking air pressures, whether it be handing us a tool, whether it be, even the simplest little thing like writing notes and when we're checking our stagger or anything else on the car when we come off the track. Next thing you know, 3 weeks later, 4 weeks later, 4 years later, I mean, they're helping us build motors and swap tires and change gears or whatever else they can do to help us out. So, they learned right along the way, but they start off with not having much knowledge. They just have a passion and an interest. And, we certainly have no qualms about help people get started.
When I think that's the thing too, is right. You never know what moment is going to get someone hooked, or what memory or what interaction. And so as you guys were talking, there's two things that came to my head as you talk about like being heroes. So Boujou, I might have told you the story, but maybe not. But I know you guys are at the auto show, right? And this year we had Tabitha DeWitt from New Paris. She got in there with her unicorn car. There are these $50,000 cars, $20,000 cars, all these cars right there. And then you have this beat up unicorn sitting in the middle of all of that, right? There's a kid who walked in, and Tabitha and I were talking. There's a kid who walked in. He said, "Mommy, that's a real race car. Do you want to know what car he pointed to?" The unicorn. He didn't point to the late model that's sitting across the way with championship trophies. He didn't point to all the other race cars that were there. And that's why, like, with Night of Destruction, and you guys know this because you've done the nods, they get the same graphics package. They get the same production, minus a few cameras and all that. They get the same production. And what I like about, was it M40 or was it Hartford, that they put their Night of Destruction competitors into my race pass? So then I can also add that graphic at the same time, which I'm like, man, that's so badass, because drivers want to see their names too. And that's so cool when I get to do that extra for like a Night of Destruction, where I can pull from my race pass and someone can say, hey, there's my name, or like someone tagged me in something that their son or something like that got in one of my clips, that they were along the fence, and the kid was pointing to the TV, just so excited that they got to see themselves on TV, right? But it's one of those that, even with those Night of Destructions, I don't say they're less than, right? We know how important financially, we know how important they are to a racetrack. But beyond that, it's like, you remember though, like, these are community people. These are people who are coming to this track, investing time, money, energy to put on a show for fans and expose the racetrack to maybe fans who don't come all the time. But you never know. Can you get a couple to come next time? So I did obviously South Bend did this, and this year they're doing it where they have one class featured with the Night of Destruction, which I think is smart. Hartford did that last year. See, Boujou, I gave credit where credit is due, even if I think other things, right? But it's smart because you're exposing your classes to a fan base. And so Galesburg did this the other day, where they had Dylan and Jesse. They had the Bluey car out there, and then Dylan Rose's car out there to help with the national anthem. Obviously, they weren't destroying them or anything, but they got to do the national anthem and showcase a class. Hartford did it with Super Troopers last year, and then with Nightmare on Bowie Street just being a combined thing. They had then the front wheel drives and all that. But it's like, there's a way you just never know, right? But again, you never know who or what is going to see that or be hooked on that. One thing I like about New Paris, this was the second one, and then I'll turn it back over, one thing I noticed about New Paris that I don't always see other places is they hand their trophies to the kids. They go and find a kid in the stands.
Yeah.
And I know drivers have done that. I'm not saying anybody doesn't, but every night at Destruction, there's kids walking away with some kind of trophy. And I forget who the driver was, but they said a kid came up to them that they gave a trophy to like 5 years later and said they were getting ready to race a mini wedge. And it was because of that trophy that they got.
Yep. That's awesome.
Destruction. And it's like that, right? You just, again, you never know. And so that's one thing that we've talked about on this show before. And you can't force anyone. It's a lot easier for me to say than do, you guys haven't seen how busy I am at Kalamazoo, but I barely have time to like have too long of conversations because it's just such a tight, fast night. But it's like, can drivers who aren't recording video and doing these things, can drivers find the time between races, go sit in the stands in your fire suit with a random fan a night and say, hey, can I sit by you guys? Here's an autograph card or whatever, right? Strike up a conversation and say, what's your favorite class out here? Who's your favorite car, right? Even if it's not them, at least you're making that connection, and you never know what that will do. And I know Joel we had on last week, he did that a lot as a driver. Now as an announcer, he doesn't have that ability to navigate too far away. But Jeremy Wardinger as an announcer at New Paris, he takes that mic and half the damn time you can't even find where he is because he's everywhere. He'll announce over in turn 4, and Boujou, that doesn't mean you have to do that, right? But nonstop moving where it's like, okay, I hear him, he's in my left ear, but I don't even know where he is, but it's those connections, right? And so again, that's where I give you all credit because you have made those connections with fans.
Yeah, we appreciate that. I mean, like you're talking about with that kid at the auto show, you just never know what's going to resonate with any individual kid or with any individual fan. Different things resonate with different people, and all the more power to it because it's just going to continue to help grow the sport in every way we can.
So let's turn on you guys then. Oh, go ahead, DJ.
And going off of that, while I'm thinking about it, people are always watching. That's a true statement. I'm gonna call a name here who's not present tonight. He might be watching, but the gear man number 151, Chris Wilhelm. This past weekend, he got his very first ever career win out at Russell's M40 Speedway. And he said after that, he had a couple of kids wander up to him, giving him fist bumps, asking for his autographs and stuff. And he was expressing to me, he's like, man, that's so cool. I didn't even realize they were watching. I'm like, dude, you got eyes on you, whether you realize it or not. And people are paying attention. They saw that orange and black 151 car in Victory Lane, then they see the driver walking through. And people are making connections of the cars with their drivers and are paying attention. So that's where a challenge of mine is to try to always be on top side, even if you're having a foul day at the track. Our presentation, our attitude, the way we carry ourselves as drivers, and even as fans, if you think about it. So, but Chris just thought it was so cool that he had people coming and fist bumping him and wanting his autograph because he won a race.
Oh yeah. Again, it's those moments you just never know, right? And I think that's the thing that, again, that comes back to like that passion, and it's not saying that someone who doesn't do that doesn't have passion, because let's face it, you guys are working on cars too. So it's very easy for ideas to be like, oh, well, there are nights that you might be like, man, I haven't ate, I didn't get anything to drink and I'm dehydrated. It's not, it's 110 degrees outside, probably not a good mix. And so I know those happen, but again, being that presentation, being presentable, remembering, and this came up with the M40 deal, and we're not going to rehash that. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. Others decided to keep the conversation going way more than it should have, and that's okay. That was their choice. But something that, those connections, like what Bill does, walking through something that, they want to build a family environment, going up there, fist bumping, hanging out, doing all these things, being topside. Right. That's something that with M40, they've done such a nice job connecting, and you just never know, that person who you fist bumped that night, that might have made their night. Even if you're in a foul mood, that one act might have just changed their whole day. Because again, we all have something that we're going through in our daily lives too. Like nobody is not sitting on something that, life's not perfect. Finances aren't perfect for a lot of people, right? So that fist bump though could be worth more than any $100 bill you might give somebody.
An old preacher one time said, "Be kind to everybody because everyone's going through a hard time."
Oh, absolutely. And again, when people lose their cool, which happens, right? It's competition. We all get it. Bougie and I were talking the other day where, when my brother and I would play NCAA football or Madden, I'd be the one throwing the controller or whatever. So like, I get it, right? Like, and if you give me a fidget to try to put back together like a Rubik's Cube or whatever, just know that it's not staying in my hands for very long. It will be flying because I get super, like, I have a patience. Like, I've been stabbed in my classroom. I've had all these other things happen in my classroom, but you give me a Rubik's Cube and that'll set me off. Like, not the other things that happen. You give me a Rubik's Cube or some kind of puzzle, that's my trigger, right? So so it's one of those things that, again, it's just that kindness, matters. Okay, there we go. Sorry, DJ.
All three of us did this.
Yeah. That's why I wanted to turn it on you guys, is what has resonated with you. And the comments are going crazy. I haven't had a chance to read them all, but I know I do want to touch base really quick. I did see someone, the next time I'm at Galesburg is the Rodney Russell Memorial. That could be one that if you guys have a chance to come up to for Rodney Russell, it is a new Paris regular night, but Chris and Tracy, I talked with them. I said, that's a very important night. I've been asked for years to come up to the Rodney Russell. Did you guys get to race against Rodney at all? He was really like Galesburg and Montville and that kind of deal.
Only if he had come down to South Bend during the 2020 situation, because a lot of the Galesburg guys came down there full time to run with us. We had 140, 150 cars a night, but I don't remember by for sure.
Yeah, I know I saw that car quite a bit, but I feel like it was at in Montville, and I remember him at Freedom Factory at that time. So
yep, he raced there.
Yeah, I saw the car from a distance, but I don't think I ever met Rodney himself.
He had a big heart for everyone, right? And that was something that I remember. He came up to me because Brock Sweeter got a camera at Montville, and at that time I only had one, and so Brock got to me just before Rodney, and Rodney came up after Brock was in victory lane. He came to congratulate Brock, and Rodney came up and he said, "I want a camera next time." And so when I invested in all those cameras, he was one of the first ones to get him at Kalamazoo, and he had it almost all the time that he was there. And that whole family is just really special. And so this year, I made it purposeful where I said, this is a non-negotiable. I am going to be at the Rodney Russell, just because when he passed away, we were in the Kalamazoo Tower when we found out that he'd passed away. I'm like, I just talked to him last week. Like, how that, like, I didn't even want to walk by that corner where they always parked. I didn't even want to go there. I didn't want to go by it. I wanted nothing to do with that corner, because it's like, he's not there, and he's not going to be there. And that was hard to hear when he passed away, because again, when he was on the track, he was fierce and he is a competitor. And if you were going to beat him, you were going to earn it. Right. And so, so that's something though, but he'd congratulate somebody when they won. He'd tell it how it is if he didn't like how something happened. But that's where I said I needed to be there. So I'm going to be there for the Rodney Russell just to answer, because I've seen that question from Zach. And so, but I know a couple other people have been talking about Galesburg. Ronnie's been in there. So I'll catch up on the comments later. We're not ignoring you. We're just, for me, sometimes it's hard to watch all the screens as the producer behind everything, where I'm like, I got all these buttons I need to press. But anyway, so what I wanted to turn on you guys with that, right? So like, I know what Rodney meant to me, and how he made me feel like important to his day, even though that was the time we interacted was at a racetrack. For you guys, you talk about how you're heroes and all that kind of deal. It's like kids and everything. What are moments that stand out to you? And Buju, I want you to answer this too. What are moments that have stood out to you guys that makes you, like, on those hard days, remember why you do this? So let's start with Keith. And someone has a fire truck behind them. It's not Ronnie. Ronnie's from Michigan, so I know he's not going out chasing fire right now. So Keith, let's start with you.
I mean, you mentioned like with Ronnie's situation, you were just talking to him a couple days before. Ronnie McLean here for us was the same way. My dad and I were at his shop. A couple days later, we heard he passed away, and we were literally just at his shop. And what was Ronnie doing? He was helping his neighbor. He had his daily driver pickup truck in the shop, and they were working on that for free and just helping one of his neighborhood friends out. And there's all kinds of situations like that. But I'll go back to your original question. What was it?
Oh, like a moment that stood out to you, like you talk about how you've made moments where like kids remember things you've done, or people remember things you've done, or how you can be representative and a role model and that kind of deal. So what has like stood out to you? So even on those hard days, you remember why you do this?
For me, it's remembering the kids up there, remembering that to those guys, they don't know whether I'm a NASCAR driver or not. They don't know that I'm not the guy on TV. And to remember that, I've got kids of my own, they're grown now, but my kids were young once, and I spent a lot of time with different coaching roles and travel this and sports this, and, all kinds of plays and stuff with my daughter and my son. And so I've been around a lot of the kids at that age and those younger ages, and coaching them and training them and being a mentor to them at that age on that level. So I bring a lot of that over, a lot of that coaching mindset, a lot of that parenting and grandparenting type mindset over to what we do here. And you have to remember that whether you see them or not, whether you hear them or not, whether you know whether they're there or not, there are people watching at all times, and they do make judgments based on what they're seeing. Whether it's one of your better moments or not, they are watching how you're handling it, and they are learning, and they're modeling themselves after a lot of times after how you're handling it.
So let's go to Buju, because Buju's also kind of been quiet in that box up there, so I don't know what he's plotting something. But so for Buju, then, what's something like, obviously you have such passion for this too, right? And you got to call a race for Rich Bull, and that was a big moment for you. So what are things that even on those tough days or whatever, what do you go, like your happy place, like DJ mentioned earlier, like what do you do to remember why you do this?
Kind of just piggybacking off what Keith said. I remember being a 7-year-old in the stands, and what the drivers that were out there meant to me at that time. And you just mentioned Rich Bull and being able to announce his race, and then him winning what will more than likely be his final win at South Bend on Saturday. Like, thinking about what being a kid in the stands and what the drivers meant to me, and maybe even beyond the drivers. Like I've mentioned on this show before, Carl Smith, who worked with Ron Barash and would sit with the picture books on the front stretch, and Mighty Mike Powers, who was a flag man and a gate guy and a pit steward and a tech man and whoever else he needed to be. Those guys being super nice to a little kid in the grandstands that loved racing. I mean, I think maybe it's a selfish thought, but I think about 7-year-old me being around the track, and if I were to interact with that kid, who would I want that kid to interact with? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I keep in mind, I guess.
DJ?
And kind of right along with that, the one thing that sticks out personally, Buju, you made reference to this last time I was on the show, the ever so famous incident with and he wrecked my car. Dude, I had such a blow up in the fanhood come my direction as a result of that. And yeah, after the camera quit rolling, of course, I was hotter than a $2 pistol, but I had to remember that there was eyes on me. And so I take that instance, and even though it's become infamous amongst DFR and a few others, I still try to take that instance, that incident, and remember, there's going to be other times where it's going to be a bad day at the track. It's going to be a rough one at the office. And so it's a challenge, really, to kind of let things that are out of my control be, and, keep focus of what I do have control over, and remember that whether I realize it or not, I'm somebody's role model, that I'm being looked up to by somebody. And that is being reminded to me quite often whenever I'm walking through the stands of M40 or Plymouth or New Paris, and I'll hear some little kid's voice go, "That's number 6." I'm like, huh? And so it's something that I think all of us can agree that it's a challenge to ourselves to not let the heat of the moment get to us, because we don't want to discourage that fan who's been watching us and disappoint them.
Yeah, and that's not to say any of us are perfect. I mean, my God, Keith knows
No.
me and my family certainly aren't perfect in that aspect. But
we've helped each other have a few moments at different times.
Yeah. Most certainly.
We've also put on a great show for the fans, because we were always super tight on the track.
That's part of it too, is the passion. And I think that the passion and what am I trying to say here? The authenticity that comes out when an incident does happen. I think that is part of what makes somebody a fan too. And that's how you handle that. And like I said, don't always handle it the best, but that's how heroes are made sometimes too, is, yeah.
Well, and that's something that last year at Kalamazoo, August 30th, Raber's Rumble, the biggest night, at least one of the biggest nights for us at Kalamazoo, other than the Clash, is the Raber's Rumble. But we also had CRA that night. Racing America was supposed to be there. Racing America was not there, but Lewis was there. And so I became their broadcast. And that meant we needed audio, because we needed to hook in their people and all these things. And Buju knows, because last Thursday, Noah joined on. Noah works for Great Lakes Super Strength. He's also working for the competitor. And Buju knows we did not declare that. They did. But, but that's something that I was so furious that day, because I didn't get to do anything that I had planned or needed to do. And I was short probably with some people who I shouldn't have been short with. And I mean, I even got Drew Jack to almost climb a ladder up to the roof to check on me. And so it's kind of those things, right? Like, I know this is not a car related thing, but it's always remembering somebody's watching, it was not in my control. It was a last minute, hey, Racing America's not here, so you need to do all these things. And this is just how it's going to go. And we make it work. Right. But like, I didn't have all the audio stuff at that time. I'm like, I have afforded what I've been able to afford, and I didn't have that stuff. But luckily, Cody Geyer had extra wire that he brought so we can hook into the PA, because I had a 25-footer, but he had the rest of it. And then Noah, who was just coming to be a fan, brought all of his stuff from Great Lakes TV, Great Lakes Super Strength TV, and he was just being a fan, but he dedicated a lot of hours. And I know we probably annoyed some fans with the sound check, mic check, because we were trying to get sound, because now my name was going to be really a part of this, right? Like, I mean, it's already a part of it, but it's like, now how many people are going to watch this? And if the broadcast sounds like crap, who is that reflective of? It's not reflective of CRA, because I'm the video guy. But that's where Noah's like, well, didn't they provide you with an audio person? No, they didn't give me anybody. And I think that's where sometimes fans and drivers don't purposely forget, but how many roles am I doing in one? Right? I'm doing social media, which if I worked for Racing America, I get paid to be social media and social media only. If you're a videographer, you're just a video guy. You don't do all the other engineering and audio stuff. I now am doing my own audio and making that. That's why Galesburg, I was stressing as my mic was taking a big, gigantic crap. And some of the audio is just so awful. And I'm like, here, I'm doing this for Galesburg, and my mic is just taking a big, giant one. And right. And then it's like, but as DJ, you control what you can control, right? There's nothing I could have done about that mic at that moment in time. So that it would make no sense to show that I was stressed and irritated and all these things. It's like, okay, plan B. Oh, plan B didn't work either, by the way. So we got to go to plan C, and it was fine afterwards. But then I felt, even editing it, I'm like, I feel like I let people down, even though I don't think I did. But that's how you feel, right? And so when you're in those moments, heat of those moments, it's like remembering being short with people. I mean, when you get Drew Jack, who wants to climb a ladder to check on me, and he doesn't do ladders, right? Like, I knew then, I'm showing too much. I mean, I wear my emotions on my sleeve, and I was very stressed that day, August 30th, because it's also like, this is our biggest street stock race. I cannot F this up, right? Like, but I'm being extra now on top of it all. So, that's where we all remember that. But it's those heat of the moments where it's control what you can control, move on to the next lap. There's there's a next race, hopefully, for everybody. There's a next time to be a fan. There's a next time to do all this. Like it doesn't help any to wear that stress and wear that frustration. And that doesn't mean you can't be mad. I tell my kids all the time, you can be mad. You just can't throw the desk across the room. Like there's a little bit of a difference. Like flying desk, not helpful, but go punch a wall, go rip paper, go do whatever. You can go do that. Preferably not the textbook that's $300, but control what you can control. You can be mad, you can be frustrated, but it's how you do that. And so, DJ, you obviously live, and I should have pulled that clip. Now that you said, I'm like, man, I should have had that ready for you if you brought it up. So let's flash back. But with my luck, I'd get in trouble for showing that clip. So obviously we wouldn't do that either. But it's one of those things that moment, right? That moment lives because of how you handled it, even though you were hotter than a $2 pistol, if I remember your one-liner, and or madder than what was it, an albino in a snowstorm, I think is the other way that you described it. But again, it's just that credit where you could have just went way off the deep end. And Keith was up by me as you were going off the deep end. He's like, I got to go down to the pits because Keith was sitting right by me that day. And
DJ actually came up to talk to me up there while I was sitting next to you.
Yep. And you were still a little bit mad then too, but that's where, again, Keith, I think, DJ brought this up last time, the mentor that you have been, just your approach to things. You really have a way of bringing people off the ledge. And so
I appreciate that.
Makes you, there's even moments I've reached out to you and you've reached out to me about some things like with the driver's spotlight not too, a few years ago where you're like, hey, I get it, but right, like think of it this way. And you brought me back to the reality of things and like, okay, yeah, that makes total sense. And so I think that's what makes you just such a special person too, is that there are a lot of people who look up to you knowing that they can go to you and vent to you or whatever, but then you're not going to run around and tell 40 other people.
Well, I appreciate that. That means a lot to me, man.
And see, something I can throw in there as well is that whenever there's been times that I've had a rough day on the track, like that instant that I brought up, or several times since then, there's one question that you, Keith, asked me a lot. And like with the incident that took place about a year and a half ago, where last time I was on the show, I talked a little bit about the fire, and Keith was a huge part of the recovery process of that because one question that he's asked me time and time and time again, and it's helped keep me grounded, is where's your head at? He'll ask me that if there was a bad day at the office or even with the fire or whatever, he'll ask me that 3 or 4 times a week. And each time, the answer got a little bit better. Because it's not about, situation can suck, but, getting mad and throwing things or whatever, it's not going to help the situation at all. In fact, it's just going to add to it. It's okay. This is where we're at. What can we do from here? And so the where's your head at question is something that lives rent free in my head. Something else that lives rent-free in my head from Keith is if I'm working on the car or even in the shop on a bus, a truck, or whatever, and I need to modify something or I need to make a part fit, something that also resonates is, it's just dumb steel. You can mold it, bend it, and make it fit to your will. I'm not going to say the other thing that lives rent-free in my head, but Keith, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
There's a few, but... Hey, with that fire situation, with so many other situations, I didn't do anything. I put a couple words out early. The community helped raise a lot of funds, and the community came together with a lot of donations. You and your kids were the one that put the work in and put yourself back on your feet. And, within a couple of weeks, if it was even that long, you had a new place, you were reestablished, you had, the kids were covered and fed and clothed, and you put the work in, man. I just helped put the word out.
Something that you said the day it happened is that, and of course it took me, probably an hour or so to process everything because I'm sitting on a front porch across the street watching the fire department do their work. After the smoke cleared, literally. You made a statement, says, at the end of this, you're going to have a hard time figuring out what to do with 3 houses worth of things. And damn if you weren't right. I had so much stuff that I had to sort through, like, holy crap. But that's just that's just a testament of what we've been talking about all this time, about how we as people, not just race car drivers, but as people, carry ourselves in front of our fans, and how that affects how they can react when life happens.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because something that I firmly believe in, and to kind of exit from the fire conversation, is, regardless as to what you face, what you put in is what you're going to get out. And that includes, but isn't limited to, how you treat people, treating people the way you wish to be treated. And is if you're going to treat someone with respect, then chances are you're going to get respect treated back to you. And if you go around walking up with your head so far up your ass you can't smell reality, well, then guess what? People are going to have a tendency to avoid you. And, if situations happen, well, that sucks. And on the way they go. So, how you treat people, what you put in is what you're going to get out, through and through.
Oh, well, and
I appreciate that.
Yeah, my favorite thing that I would always tell people, especially even in my classroom, respect. At the end of the day, it's respect. You don't need to send each other Christmas cards. You don't need to even like each other. I'm not going to make you like somebody, because that's not also natural. But what is natural is respect. And I would always give stories, like, there are people that I don't like and I don't jive with, but I respect them. Right? It's
Mhm.
I've always believed, even if you didn't like somebody or don't like someone, you even give credit where credit is due. Like, if they've had a great idea, or they do something really well, or they're really strong, like, if that's their thing that they can, their genius is what we would call it in the classroom, that's their genius. Give them credit where credit is due. So if you know that, hey, I'd always tell my kids when I would draw on the board, I do stick figures. I'm not an artist. I didn't go to school to be an artist. I didn't pay enough money to be an artist or even learn how to be an artist. So I do stick figures. I made what I could make that was within my genius. But my kids, most of them, their genius was creativity. Their genius was art and doing those kind of things. So I would sometimes have them come up and I'd say, hey, your genius is drawing. Why don't you draw this? Because I know you'll do way better than I can. And that was showing them, like, you can give credit where credit is due. And then I would challenge them if they had just gotten into an argument or fight with a classmate. I'd purposely pair them up, even though sometimes that also meant World War III might have come. And it's like, you can work together because you both do this really, really well. And then they would find out, that's how everybody in my classroom became fans of Titanic. And that's all we'd have to do when we had downtime. Can we watch something about Titanic, or can we do a Titanic puzzle or whatever? Like, everybody in my classroom, because one kid talked about Titanic, next thing, oh, I like Titanic too. And next thing, we're drawing 12 Titanics, and they all joined on that, right? They all found, like, yeah, I just actually threw scissors at you, but hey, let's draw Titanic together. Like, it's those kind of things that it was a respect, right? You don't have to like them, but you're not going to treat them poorly, or anyone else, right? And so I think sometimes you just see it in the world, that lack of respect, and not universal, not everybody, right? I'm not painting it is a broad brush, but that doesn't mean everybody, because then you'll get someone, well, I respect everyone. You might, right? But I can go to social media right now and I can see a lot of disrespect, right? I mean, Hartford getting annihilated by even some of their own drivers because, they've been doing the best they can. And it's like, man, what if Tim and Leah just came on tomorrow and said, guess what? You think we suck? You think all these things? Here's a for sale sign. And then what? You're going to wish that you could have that track back and to complain about the new clay, right? Like, just stop. There's a way to do things respectfully, and so I think that's something that sometimes it's easy to forget that. Like, you're when you there's constructive criticism, and then there's just flat out disrespect. It's like, just stop it.
And see, you brought up, we don't always send Christmas cards to each other. That sparked a thought. And along with showing respect, different people will show respect different ways. And I've got a group of people, one name in particular I'm going to mention here in a second. Keith, you might already know who I'm going to talk about here. But if he ain't messing with you, he don't like you.
Yeah.
You already know where I'm going with this, don't you, Keith?
Oh, yeah.
Who on here knows Ken Darren the squirrel?
Oh, yeah.
So, you were talking ideas a minute ago, Lewis, about, how people can get ideas, creativity, or whatever. I swear Ken can be one of the most creative individuals in the world. And
safety third.
What's that?
Safety third.
Yeah, exactly. But some of the things that he has done, he will take an incident and run with it just to make people laugh, make people smile. And I speaking of postcards, so I moved to a place where I'm at now in Griffith, and about a month later, I come home from church, and you already know where I'm going with this.
I knew about this one before you did.
What's that?
I said I knew about this one before you did, before you found it.
Well, see, I come home from church, right? And there's a welcome to the neighborhood sign on my porch, on my front door, along with a goodie basket. And as soon as I walk up, I'm like, I've been here for like a month or so, and I'm looking around, looking for a hidden camera and trying to find, okay, who did this? I went to my ex-wife, Vivian, and I went to a couple of people's like, do y'all know who did this? And everyone is tight-lipped. Everyone is tight-lipped. Like, no, we don't. It's like, man, everything is pointing towards Squirrel, but he would have had to drive an hour and 15 minutes just to my house to do this. And then like 2-3 days go by, and he sends a picture on Snapchat of my front porch with all the stuff on it. I'm like, oh, you son of a, I wanted to call him every name in the book and then some. And he's just sitting there smiling with that big cheesy grin, like, gotcha. And people had sworn to secrecy. But Ken is one of those guys where if he don't like you, he wouldn't do none of this kind of stuff to you.
Yeah, right.
They had the Fools 200 Enduro at Plymouth a few weeks ago, and I made reference to this on my first 60 Seconds with the Six, where I drove a literal unicorn.
Right.
Kenny is the one that designed that car, and he has some of the creativity he has in his mind is, I want to say is kind of I'm trying to find the word here, but he doesn't get enough credit for how creative he really can be. And he has a knack for being loud and obnoxious, but all so that people will have something to talk about, where people will have something to remember. That car turned a grand total of 6 laps. But to this day, I have people going, hey, you drove that unicorn car, right? Yeah, I drove the unicorn car, number 19. But again, he wouldn't do this kind of stuff if he didn't like you. If someone rubbed him the wrong way, he wouldn't give 2 hoots about being creative for you. But if he likes you, you better have thick skin, because he's going to find a way to embarrass you in a very creative, PG way.
Well, and that's
PG my ass.
I say PG because I asked him to be.
But
he's coming at you both barrels.
Oh, yeah. Well, and that's DJ again. And you're someone with the personality that you can take those kind of things if it's from the right person.
Right, exactly. If it's from the right person, that's one thing. If some just random Joe Schmo showed up and tried to do that, I would look at him like, who are you and what are you doing? Going somewhere. No, there has to be an equity built with that individual to do that.
Yeah, Billy Edwards and I, we have our thing. I'm not going to say what it is on air, but we have our thing each time we see each other at the track. It started at Springport, and and sometimes I'll go up to him and go, "Oh, so you're driving this shit box today?" And if someone walking by didn't know the connection, right, they might go, "Wow, that's our media guy here," but that's something that Billy and I have, and like I said, there's other things that we have, but that's where it's those connections that you make with people. Where, like, if I just went up to someone else and said that, it probably wouldn't land the same way, because I might not have that connection with them, and I wouldn't do that anyways. But with him, I know I can give a hard time. He gives me a hard time. And it's when if we don't give each other a hard time, like I forget what day it was, but I was just kind of stressed. It was a day after the classroom, and it was really rough in the classroom that day. So by the time I got to the track, I was already 20 minutes behind of where I needed to be, if I were on time. And he finally stopped me. He said, "Dude," and then he did his thing, and he said, lighten up a little bit. It's okay. You're at the track now, but he knew, right? Like, he just knew from my cadence, my everything, that it had been a rough day. And, but that was fun. Or he'd say, "Well, did you go see my shit box today?" "No, I got to go look at it." Just a reminder, right? So again, we need those kind of people too, who keep us grounded, right?
Yeah.
And keep us in that reality. Cause racing is stressful too. Right. And then life. And you came, I felt so bad after that Springport trip. It's like, I was so excited for that. And then, a few days later when that happened, I'm like, oh man, he just did everything he could to get up here. And now that, right. I felt so awful, but, again, the way you handled it though, and obviously having someone like Keith in your corner and a lot of people in your corner, it's like, you've come out of that and you were down, but you weren't down. You just kind of looked at it as an opportunity, and that again speaks to who you are as a person.
I didn't have time to be down. I'll be honest with you. Like, it was just everything was so rapid fire, and then of course 2 days later at the South Bend show, I was told that I was gonna be there because, well, Keith, I think you were the one that said it's not like you have anywhere else to be.
Yeah. I guess.
Yeah, that was me.
When he said that, I went, "Oh," like, I can't believe he said that.
I was watching that episode live, and I saw you guys both gasped with that. I was like, "Oh my god!"
I mean, but
again, it goes back to having known that person, know where their head is, know where their heart is, and that respect level.
Yeah.
Yep. And I just guessed because I'm like, I can't believe he said that. But at the same time, you have that relationship, you have that connection, you have that where, again, if you were someone random or some Joe Schmo, it probably wouldn't have landed the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
coworker of mine, I'll share this.
I would say at the end of the day, I'm just a world-class asshole. I mean, that's all it is. So.
Yeah, Keith tells me that his day doesn't officially start if I don't at least call him one. So good evening, asshole. But but I had that week. I had a coworker because we lost a cat, right? And I come into work that Monday. This was following South Bend and all that, and I see him. His name is John. He says, "So I hear you had a rough weekend." I said, "Yeah." He goes, "You lose everything?" I said, "Yeah, including I lost everything, including the cat." He stops, looks at me. He goes, "Wait a minute. She was on her 9th?" Again, that respect level, that it in serious situation, but just able to flip a conversation on a dime like that. And
that helps. But speaking of flipping a conversation, I do know it's 9 our time. DJ, you're still at 8 o'clock. We've already lived 8 o'clock here. You're at 8 o'clock now. And you've also been sitting in the car for like 5 hours. But I know it's not been 5. But real quick, I do want to do weekend shout-outs. We kind of talked about this, Keith, too. So I do want to do some weekend shout-outs really quick. So something that stands out from the weekend. So again, let's start with Buju, because he's been unusually quiet tonight. So I don't know. Yeah.
I think he's been enjoying the K&D show over here.
He's plotting something, I think. But be that as it may. So and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be racing related. It can be whatever, right? If you saw Big Fluffy Cloud and that's your weekend shout out, whatever you want. So Bougie, let's start with you.
So yeah, we already mentioned it. Rich Bowl winning at South End this weekend. That was big. Been a Rich Bowl fan for almost 30 years of my life and never got a victory lane picture, and I went and did that this weekend. So shout out to Rich Bowl on that one. I want to shout out Cameron McCrudden. I sponsor him a couple of dollars. He did his best finish in a Hornet feature. He got second on Friday, so real proud of Cam. He's getting better and better all the time. And then Evan and Kaylee Verdine. Evan had some problems on Friday, got it figured out Saturday, got a nice finish at South End, and Kaylee was on her way to the front until she met the wall on Friday. So proud of all the cars I sponsor, and then my first favorite race car driver I've mentioned on the show before, Rich Bowl.
Yep.
Evan qualified top 4, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he qualified third. Yeah, qualified third, second, he third in the feature, I believe. So
yeah, I told him that night himself. I mean, he's come a long way already in that car. He's doing real well.
Yeah, I'm real proud of him.
So Keith, something from the weekend.
A couple quick shout outs from Friday night. Plymouth Racing was fantastic. Kenny Wallace came to town again, and he's always such a great guy to hang out with. I mean, he's not only a world-class racer, obviously, from being in NASCAR and racing as long as he has, but world-class gentleman above and beyond everything else. I mean, even through the wreck that happened, which was pretty spectacular to watch, everything happens pretty quick with the car getting rolled over, and everybody comes out fine. But talking to him on the track as he and I were walking off the track, and all he was concerned was he just hated the whole situation happened at all. Even though nobody got hurt, there was a lot of race cars that were tore up, and he just hated that he was in the middle of that. And regardless of who or how that got started, it was, a racing deal with everybody just all in the same spot at the same time. But he's always a great guy to hang out with, and there's videos of him talking with about 100 people back in the pits around the wrecked car, and just spending that time with the people rather than just running and hiding. That's always a highlight type of a moment to see a gentleman act like what we've been talking about, how you handle the bad situations. And then once again, to reiterate, I mean, obviously we got the Bulls t-shirts on and stuff tonight. Rich, to be able to see him go out like that, to see the photos from turn 3. Somebody got a photo from high end on turn 3 with Rich's dad standing on the fence, with Bull driving his victory lap with the victory flag, sunset right behind him. Such a touching moment with, those two literally riding off into the sunset together like that into victory lane. What may be the last time at that track for him. I haven't known Rich as long as Boujou and his family and a lot of things like that. But, actually this race car that the phone's actually mounted to right now, I mean, this is one of Rich's old street stocks that I bought from Rich that helped get me into that class. And, not a lot of people always understand Rich. He's kind of got one of those, even in victory lane, he looks like he's mad type faces. Mm-hmm. And so not a lot of people understand him the way some of us do, but man will definitely give you the shirt off his back right there on the spot if you ever needed it. And such a great man to see him have that victory that night was very, very, very touching. Very, very cool moment that we all got an opportunity to live with him.
For sure.
Well, and that's where, Rich, he'd reached out to, hey, man, I want to be on your show. And then he had to go to Florida at the beginning of the season. Like everything was just too much, had too much to do. And then last time he was going to be on, he was sick and he felt really bad about it. Right. And so, I just felt like when he reached out, I mean, he's one who reached out and said, can I be on your show, to talk about the announcement that he did at South Bend. It was one of those, like, I just felt very honored about that he would want to do it here. And he even said, and that was like 4 a.m. It was one of my nights I was pulling an all-nighter. And, he is messaging and going back and forth and asking, like, well, how are you affording this? And how are you doing this? And how are you doing that? And like really getting to have a conversation. He even said, hey, man, I know that, you and I haven't always, agreed eye to eye and, we butted heads, but I respect what you do. I appreciate what you do. And it's like, coming from someone like him. And that's what I mentioned, knowing, that this could be like his last year as a full-time competitor. I said, well, if you'd ever be interested in an onboard camera, we can at least document your last year. So we always have that. So at New Paris, at least every time that he's there, he has a camera, and I always told him, you could always tell me to F off to and go away. Like it's fine. Front-wheel drive that will take it. So, there's always a front wheel drive who will take it. Right. But joking aside, it was like, I just felt like really honored, by that he would want to do that on this show, this platform, and that someone of his caliber, sees what I do, appreciates what I do. Not that I always need those kind of things, but I'll tell you, there's some tough days where it's like, or when I'm like super tired, like now, it's like, but right, it's that fuel that keeps going. Like, there are people out there who appreciate it, and not everyone's going to. I mean, how many people dislike racing, and dislike Racing America for different reasons? Like, you're just not going to get everybody, and that's okay. It's just sometimes those voices are the loudest, and so then it gets exhausting, right? Because it's those few minor. But then you have someone like Rich who, went out of his way to say that. It's like, you hold on to those kind of things. So when I saw his post and his win and getting that, it's like, you can't think of anyone more deserving, especially at that track that there's so much history with that family. From, what was it? His dad went over the wall in turn 3 at one point, or was that Hannah's? I can't remember if it was a Bull or a Hannah.
That was Hannah, but
Hannah. But but them battling, right? Having different things, and Bulls being such a huge part of that facility. To see
eight championships there alone. I mean, he's got 2, I think 2 at Plymouth and another 8 plus at South Bend. So
for him to get that moment, it's like, especially if that's the last time that Shoutouts are there. And again, we don't know, right? The book, as Boujou said, is not quite written or closed yet, but if that is the moment, and that's the last moment that Shoutouts are there, at least it went out in style, if anything, right? So
at least for his career. I mean, if not for the track, at least for his career.
Yep. So again, you can't wrap that bow any better, right? It's kind of one of those bow wrap moments. I
know you guys have had some missed connections, but if you get a chance to get Bull on, definitely do that, because talk about somebody that can have some stories. I mean, he's got a lot of history that he could talk about.
Yep. Yeah, him and even Haley. I've been going up to her just before racing. Like the first night, I said, "Are you nervous? Are you okay?" And then when she led the race and everything, I went down during intermission and said, "See, you're out there leading laps and challenging and doing all these things, and you're a racer. Just go race, right?" And then the following week or following show, she did just as well. She didn't do trifecta, but it was the weekly after that she, it's like, don't be nervous. And she was nervous, but as I'm rooting for her, she's going to be one to watch. I could see a championship for her soon. I'm not saying this year, right? Because she's just starting, but she's going to be one to watch for a really long time in this area. So, or just in racing in general, she's got that next level kind of talent to her. You could already tell how she processes on a track. Even in that street stock, she was putting in places where you don't always see people put it. And she was racing. I mean, she didn't look nervous when she was behind the wheel. So that was exciting to see her do that. So, and
I'll talk about somebody that's grown up in it and has some great role models that she's watched literally every single week.
Yep. Yeah. That's where, she's fun. She's going to be a fun one to watch. And then DJ, because I know we're getting close, and I don't want to keep you guys any longer because we've already been on for a little over 2 hours, and it's late for you guys. What's your weekend shout out?
I mentioned it a little while ago, but the gear man, Chris Wilhelm, getting his first ever career win out at M40. He put some stats out the next day of how he raced for several years. I think he was dabbling in street stocks, and then he got a hold of this car actually from Brandon Treach back in, I think, 2023, and has just been constantly working on the car, trying to find speed and things like that. And I was actually running in the same race with him. I finished third to that race, but knowing how special that first win can be for somebody, and it's, when I won my first race, which was, I remember the dates. For some reason, I remember dates really well. April 21st, 2023. It was opening weekend in South Bend. And that was when I brought out the LHR tribute car, the blue, black, and white that people confuse for Mark Martin's Viagra car. Yeah. But you could get me to shut up for a week. and Chris is I told him, I called up with him afterwards. I says, man, how was you able to get out of the car as big as your head is, but he understood that, what I meant by that. But just seeing him, or anybody for that matter, getting that first taste of victory is always so sweet, so special. And that instance, I was able to have a pretty good seat to watch it.
Oh yeah. Well, and they always say you won't ever forget your first win.
Exactly.
So that's where, even hearing you say that, someone who I think is getting close, the late model class at Kalamazoo is kind of like wide open this year. So I'm excited to see how that is. But Mason Metzger, he's coming. He ran good last week. Well, now 2 weeks ago, and then even last Friday, he started in the far back and moved his way up to third, and he's getting there. And that's where sometimes with my onboard cameras, I see people maybe at their most vulnerable moments. And there's a couple moments, he's learning, he's young, he's obviously got the Bozels, there with him, but that's something that he's been coming. And last week he ran third. Really strong race, but last year there are a couple moments that obviously I'm not going to show on an onboard camera that I cut out. But there are times that he's found himself in spots or put himself in spots where he's let emotion out. And obviously, like I said, I would never include that or even post that anywhere. But you see those moments. I remember going up to him saying, "Hey, don't beat yourself up. Don't do these kind of things." So I think he's coming, and I'm excited to see when he can get that win. Because I think they're going to celebrate Fireball Friday. If it's at Kalamazoo, will be super special that day. But that's someone that you just, you root for those people to get to get those wins, especially when you see the highs and the lows. And I know, Chris has been doing it for a while, and to have that moment at M40, again, you're not going to forget that.
Right.
Well, when you see him have that moment in that car, every single one of us has those moments in the car. We just don't all have cameras on us at the time.
Yeah.
I've oftentimes wondered how much you edit out some what I like to sometimes call non-Sunday school language out of your in-car camera.
Well, if I charge, you can't charge pennies anymore. So I guess if you went up to a nickel, I might be able to buy a big cruise ship at some point. But that's something that I don't catch every one of them. And I always, because sometimes drivers will come up to me and I'm like, if I had a nickel for every time, I would maybe not be broke, but it's one of those that I always say, if you're going to do it under caution, because, once the caution lights turn on, give a second or two. And then if you're just going to let it all out and make a sailor proud and then some, go for it. Cause nobody will know but me, but if you do it under green, or sometimes you get the salute to America, that we sometimes do, and Stone Cold Steve Austin style, and I'm like, and I can't always cut those out if it's like under green flag conditions. And sometimes if it's dark, I don't see it, but then inevitably someone messages me, "Did you know that the driver was saluting the number one sign? Can you show me the timestamp? Because I definitely missed it." And I do look for it, but sometimes I'm like, be you, who cares? I'm not going to lose sleep over that salute. And, now if they're destructive, this is where it's been trouble. If they get destructive, I don't post it. I won't post it. That's not a thing. But then that's hard, where sometimes I've had to go to someone and be like, you didn't need to do that at all. And it's on camera now, so you can't even deny it. And now the track is interested in watching it. So good luck. But it's like, that's the times that I worry more than the curse words and all the other stuff. Or wait, the Sunday school language, and
Sunday school language.
Number one,
we all turn into Ryan Blaney when we're in the car in the heat of the moment at times.
Ryan Blaney, I was just thinking Dale Earnhardt when Jeremy Mayfield bumped him out of the way of Pocono. And he called him number one there on track after the race. Buju, I know you've seen that race.
Yep, for sure.
Yeah, sometimes those onboards are really interesting. But like I said, I will never post, like, let's say someone's going way off or whatever. I'm never going to post that, right? Like, cut off those moments because it's like, that's not what we're gonna do here. But otherwise, I mean, all those shout outs that's something Boujou, I forgot to tell Boujou, but I mentioned, I'm like, man, we should find time to do like weekend shout outs, even with guests, like get a weekend shout out before someone goes. Just again, we're now in the season. Let's start recognizing some moments and spots, and get names out there who may not always get mentioned. And so, I think a first win is pretty awesome and everything. And obviously Rich, a classic win, on a career that, is certainly winding down at least full time. And so that, and I was also thinking, for a shout out, and why I thought of it is like the Galesburg Night of Destruction. I just, I tell people I don't make enough money to fluff anybody. I'm going to say what I feel and think, obviously in a professional, respectful manner. But that's something that, on here, I've been very public that I think, the new Paris Night of Destructions are just tip top. I haven't been to many that, give me the adrenaline rush to the exhaustion point like theirs, where I just start to finish. But man, that Galesburg one, I told Bob, I said, I don't, Bob Garrett, he's the promoter at Galesburg. I said, I don't fluff anybody. If new Paris people here, they'd sit there and go, oh boy, they'd get some ideas, because it's like if they had a competition between the two, that's a battle for like number 1 and 2. Someone, you'd only win by TKO, not physically knocking out, but like,
right,
start to finish. Because Galesburg, I know they get a lot of, how am I going to say this? They have a reputation too, like New Paris, that is generations in the making. And so they sometimes get a bad rep from outside people, not so much inside people, but outside people. And it's like, I don't know, every time I've been there, it's been nothing but respect, nothing but class. The drivers are respectful. The staff is respectful, greets you, talks with you, helps out. And I'm not there all the time, so maybe there's times it's not that way. But it's like, from everything I've seen, it's like, not everyone can look like an Owasso and have millions and millions of dollars pumped into it. We need tracks like Painesville that you pull up to and you're like, what am I pulling up to? This, I think of it like the Taco Shack, when you
Mottville.
Yeah, Mottville. When you want authentic tacos, you don't go to the fancy restaurant that's all decorated like it is in Mexico. You go to the one that looks like it's from Mexico, and like, oh, this is going to be the good stuff, right? Authentic as authentic can be. So like a Mottville, like a Galesburg, like a New Paris, we need tracks like that too, that are just down to earth, historic. They may not look fancy, they may not be on your marquee all the time, but they're doing what they can, and they're keeping racing alive at, for what they can afford to do and all that. So I think it's those shout outs that we need to remember, those tracks too, and those people who, they're just barely making ends meet. And every track is in that way. I'm not saying others aren't, but it's like, when tracks have these reputations, it's like, okay, when's the last time you were there? Or did you really give them a fair shot? Or are you just mad about something, and that's why you carry this forward? So that's why I was thinking, what more can we do on here for the Monday Night Throttle? Monday Night Rewind, to give shout out to people, and tracks, because they're all doing what they can right now. So, so I'm going to be purposeful about that with each guest. So you're like the guinea pigs for that. So, but other than that, I know it's late. Boujou and I were kind of talking about a short show, but I also said, but if the conversation's going, I don't want to cut it off. And so we've covered a lot and a lot of themes tonight. So I definitely appreciate you both coming on, but I know you've put in your days of work and everything, and it's almost 9:30. And DJ, you've just sat and not moved. We've all taken a chance to move a little bit. So I know you drive a bus all the time and all that, so you're probably used to sitting. But even myself, I'm like, I'm getting dark now. I had to go turn on the light while you were talking. That's why I put you full screen. I'm like, nobody needs to see me getting up to go turn on the light, but let there be light. But again, I definitely appreciate you both coming on, especially on the Monday, stormy Monday.
Hey, I appreciate you letting me come on and inviting me on. And I know it's been a couple of years since I've raced full time, and to still be involved and still be a part of everything. I appreciate it for sure.
And I've always enjoyed any time I get to interact with you, and for you to have me on the show, it's always an honor. Always a pleasure to be on here.
Yeah, like I said earlier, and like I said, I don't get paid enough to fluff anybody. I'm huge fans of who you guys are as people, not just who you are as racers or what you've done as racers. Even last week, one of our guests, when I talked about success, and they had said, "Well, I've only actually won one thing," and I said, "I don't measure success in the amount of wins somebody has, or checkered flags they capture, or trophies they can hang up." Um, that's something that success can be in a lot of different ways, and it's what's the impact you've made. And so that's where Buju has a win, right, in the Bumblebee, but he's not been in a car as often lately. But I still think of him as having a successful career because of what he's made impact wise off the track, and you can't replace that, right? Keith, you might not be in the car all the time, but think of how many fans you made just by being you, just by walking in the stands, interacting with people, engaging with people, sitting with people, talking with people, making that personal connection at a time a lot of others weren't. And then obviously, DJ,
I appreciate that.
Everything you've done, the story that you've told, the vulnerability that you've had to tell your story and have those moments and do your live videos where you would talk about your connection to Jesus and your faith and your passion and your purpose and doing that. Again, there's a lot of people who don't do those kind of things, who allow themselves to be vulnerable. And even at the track, you are who you are. You're authentically yourself. And again, you can't replace those kind of things. So, as long as we have a platform like this to give, to help drivers like you, people like you, tell your story, we're going to keep doing that, because that's, I think, from feedback. And Bougie, I don't know if you get the same thing, but at least when I go to tracks, that's what people really like about this rewind, is they're like, you get to talk with people and learn about people. And I mean, we have some who watch us the whole time we're on, and they'll be on from start to finish. We have others who are on or off. We have others who watch afterwards and come back. And that's the feedback that I get. I don't, Bougie, what kind of feedback have you gotten in your corners?
Yeah, same thing. I mean, yeah, everybody seems to be enjoying the show and the variety, and like as not most shows are going to have the big names, and I'm not, especially talking. We have two guests on right now. I'm not saying you guys aren't big names,
Right.
but nobody's going to have a front wheel drive racer and a Hornet racer on for 2 hours and 20 minutes. I promise you that.
Yeah. Or Night of Destruction competitor or a small
Yeah.
series. I mean, that's something that it's like, yes, we had like Victor last week, right? And that obviously is a really big name. And next week we have Will Greenwell, who is a star in the announcing world. But it's just hard down the earth. We're not scripted. We just kind of shoot from the hips and have conversation, and it's natural. But again, that's where I'm so appreciative of you both coming on. Obviously, Buju, I mean, he commits a lot of time to doing these live shows each week. And so, there's just a very deep appreciation for you guys, who you guys are as people, and the fact that you took this amount of time out of your night to do this. So again, thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate
thank
that.
you for having us.
Hey, Buju, love you,
Yeah.
man. Keep up the great work you're doing with your health journey. You're looking fantastic, man. Lewis, keep doing what you're doing. You're loved and respected way more than you may know.
Oh, but that's what keeps me going, is it's, like I always tell people, I don't always need to hear that, but I'm one of those who appreciates that. That's the extra fuel. So as I sit up finishing this Kalamazoo program for the rest of the night, that I'm like, okay, I got almost everything done from the weekend, but that, and it's one of those, like, it's okay. I know people are looking forward to it, and it's okay. I'm going to be tired, but it's going to be worth it, because the people who appreciate it are going to appreciate it. And the people who are like, why is it taking so long? Whatever, it's no big deal. I know this group appreciates it. And that's the motivation that keeps going, because it's not cheap, doing any of it. And a lot of this is, as you guys know, is not, I might make money on, how do I say this? I might earn money on YouTube and Facebook, but Buju saw how much I made on some stuff, and I can promise you, it's not buying me a hot dog at the racetrack anytime soon. So, and it certainly didn't cover any of my expenses from last month. So that's something that it's like, but it's the passion behind it that keeps going. Because if I didn't have the passion, it would be very easy to just say everything's for sale and I'm done. I'll go back to being in the stand so I can have my chicken tenders or chicken strips and French fries and just do that. And and I think that's why I like even today, it was a very, not that it was a purposeful theme, but it was a theme throughout: passion, respect. What can we do to help this sport? Because everybody here on this screen is doing something to help the sport. So again, just thank you guys for everything that you do.
Thanks, man. It was a great time.
Guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for having us, and it's thoroughly enjoyable. And let me echo what Keith said. You two keep doing what y'all are doing. I'm looking forward to the next episode of the Buju Bull Ring, and yeah, can't wait for the next one.
I do want to do a quick shout out. I saw Kenzie Epping was on here. She's a mini wedge racer, and she got a victory at Kalamazoo yesterday in one of the heat races, and she's going to be one to watch if her next step future is going to be into the big cars, because she just has a knack for the track. And so I'm excited to watch her. A couple mini wedge racers have been on here. Like I said earlier, I'm not ignoring comments on purpose. It's just a lot to manage on different sides, and I'm not always on the right screen to see all the comments coming in. So that's more my fault. I need to always remember to switch things over. But one thing I did want to remind everyone before we hang up here for the night is that you've been watching the Monday Night Rewind on Top Row Racing Media National Compact Touring Series Facebook pages, and then Top Row Racing Media YouTube. Obviously on YouTube, it's always there. You can always go back. On Facebook, it stays on for about 30 days and then it deletes off. So definitely like, share, get it out there. We're looking for guests. We're booking into June now. We've been talking with DJ McCotter, who races the number 6 front wheel drive and does Night of Destruction. Already said he'll be at New Paris this coming weekend. Excited to see him in person. And it sounds like you might have a ride. And then we've also been talking with Keith Beringer Jr. This is his car from a few years ago at the South Bend Auto Show. And next Monday night at 7:05, joining us, again, one of the top voices in the nation, Will Greenwell. And this Thursday, Buju and I are back for another live episode of the Thursday Night Throttle, where we preview the upcoming weekend. And definitely don't forget, if you're looking to get your car detailed, especially now that it's spring, use the code TOPROW over in Bridgeport, Michigan at ELH Detailing. While you're getting car detailed, enjoy Waco Beach. Get a car around to go downtown or go to St. Joe while you're waiting. Definitely take advantage of that. And when you do, you might have a chance to get on the house. Free full detail from ELH Detailing. We're going to be announcing 2 different times. So depending on how many times you go to ELH, you might get lucky and can get 2 details on the house from ELH Detailing. Other than that, this has been Keith Jr. with us, DJ McCotter, of course, Buju, the master of the bull rings, and Lewis, owner of Top Row Racing Media. It's almost time to turn left and go fast, Buju, because
See you at the races.
We'll see everyone at the races.